start that the Gamecocks wanted or needed last night. The South Carolina Gamecocks needed to get off to a good start last night in this 3-game series with Georgia. However, it was not a good start. No bueno for the Gamecocks. So I asked the question. I have been very strong on the Kingston needs to stay train. So the question, I'm going to be fair to our audience. The question now becomes, Diesel, what needs to happen for me, Cole Bryson, to be flipped, to say that Kingston does need to be fired? He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson. This is Wire to Wire, the newest show, afternoon drive show right here in the upstate. So glad to be with you on this Friday edition. Diesel, it's Friday, man.
It is. I feel like I've barely been here over the past 2 weeks. I could get used to this 4-day work week thing. Come on, management. Can we make this happen?
You think that'll be a possibility?
No, I don't. I
have missed
have
you.
Advertisers buying 5-day-a-week shows.
I have missed you. I don't like when you're out. Yeah, I'm gonna butter you up. Last night, Diesel, the South Carolina Gamecocks had a chance to get off to a very strong start.
Sorry, Cole, I'm married.
They have Georgia this weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday series. And last night, the starting rotation once again was that thorn in the Gamecock side. And only, Diesel, I know you weren't here yesterday, but only if we on this show said that very thing. Well, guess what? Jack Veltri, Gamecock Central, came on the show yesterday. This was 5:20. The game started at 6:30. Here's what Jack said yesterday. So that was Jack Veltri. Diesel, you heard him say his concern was the starting rotation. Well, it's almost like Mark Kingston and the baseball team were listening to Wire yesterday, because Roman Kimball, Diesel, do you want to guess how many innings he lasted last night as the starter for the Gamecocks?
Let's see. They gave up 4 in the first. I'm guessing he lasted 1 inning.
0.1.
He faced what? 1 batter? 2 batters?
Let's see. He faced 4 batters last night. And Georgia just lit him up. Ty Good came in. Ty Good wasn't bad. He faced 17 batters, then Tyler Dean, then Drake Quinn.
When it's not your day, it's not your day.
But what's so interesting, Diesel, is, and this is the sport of baseball. You know this. You know enough baseball to know that it's a weird game, right? What's interesting is a month ago, you and I were talking about, and everyone who covers South Carolina was talking about, Diesel, they've got to get their bats going. Their pitching's okay, but they got to get their bats going. Well, guess what they did? They got their bats going, and they're still hitting the ball incredibly well, but what are they not doing now? They're not pitching well. It's funny. It's weird, right? The game of baseball, how that flips so easily.
It's very similar to how Clemson's bullpen performed against Charlotte.
Yep.
Put yourself in a situation. If you in this sport, if you put yourself in a situation where you have to score 14, 15 runs to win games, you're in deep, you know what.
Well, that's exactly what happened last night, Diesel, as South Carolina dropped game 1 to Georgia, 14-10.
Yeah.
And you know what? How many times have I said this in the past 3 weeks? When you score 10 runs, even talking about Clemson, you should win the game. They didn't.
Yeah, I don't remember who the guest was that we had on. We spoke about just the explosion of offense in college baseball, and it's pretty much across the board. You don't know if it's the ball, if it's the bat, it's what it is that's causing the offense to be really explosive right now. I mean, you should probably have to score minimum 6 runs to have a good chance to win a lot of ball games in college ball. Probably more like 8. But if you're requiring your offense to put up 15 runs to win, Again, you're not going to win that many games.
Well, what you can't do, Diesel, is you cannot give up 7 runs in the first 2 innings of play. Last night, South Carolina gave up 4 runs in the first, 3 runs in the second, 3 in the 5th, 2 in the 6th, and lost 14-10. South Carolina, they scored 3 in the first, 1 in the 3rd, 3 in the 6th, and again in the 8th. Guess what? They almost came back.
Yeah.
But the problem is, you cannot continue to put yourself behind the 8 ball. What we're seeing is South Carolina's a good baseball team. But the issue, Diesel, is their starting pitchers aren't performing. I tweeted last night. And again, these are college kids, so I'm not trying to be demonizing. How about that word? But I will say this, Diesel. I tweeted last night on Twitter at @TheColeBryson. It's time we have the conversation that Roman Kimball cannot start anymore, because you're at the point in the season where you can't allow this guy to go out and cost you games.
Yeah, he'll cost you games in the SEC tournament, and that's where you can at this point solidify whether or not you're even going to host a regional. I mean, we talked about it. They had to win 3 games down the stretch to have a chance to host a regional.
And they've got 5 left.
And they got 5. It doesn't seem very likely that they are going to get those 5 wins, especially if this is the way starting pitching is gonna.
So right now, Diesel, they are, because of last night's loss, they're 13-12 in conference. Talking about South Carolina baseball and what they did last night, or didn't do rather. 33-16 overall. They're at 13-12 in conference play. Remember, last year, 16 conference wins got them to host a regional. Right now, they have 2 games this weekend with Georgia remaining, 1 tonight, and then 1 tomorrow at 2 o'clock. So it's not time to hit the panic button yet, but it is time to understand that your backs are against the wall, and you have no other choice now but to win. South Carolina needs to win these next 2. So I ask the question, because we've had listeners and Tolos like JD and other listeners who have been very adamant, Diesel, about Mark Kingston needing to be fired. To be fair, because I want to be a fair radio host, I want to play the flip side, right? I have been very adamant about Mark Kingston keeping his job, but now I'll ask the question to you and to myself. What now needs to happen for me to flip, for me to switch my position and campaign for Kingston to be fired? Diesel, I think he's a good coach.
Yeah.
I really do. But I'll say this, and I hope JD and I hope the ones that are listening that want Kingston gone, I hope they're listening, because, again, I want to be very fair to the Gamecock fans. If you win of the last 6, you already lost 1. Diesel, if you go 1-5 in the last 6, and then you lay an egg in the SEC tournament, number one, it's going to be very difficult to convince me that you're going to be able to go make some noise in the postseason. If you go 1-5 in these last 6, they win, let's say they win 1 against Georgia and lose the series to Georgia, and then they go get swept by Tennessee. If you go 1-5 down the stretch in the last 6, lay an egg in the SEC tournament, and come out in the postseason and look pretty average, Cole, I'm playing the third person now, the host, the one talking right now, who has been adamant about Kingston keeping his job, I will flip my stance. I will change my tune. I will admit I was wrong, and I will side with the Gamecock fans and tell them, guess what? I agree.
Yeah, Cole, I think where this falls, I think it would be wrong to put a lot of this on Mark Kingston. I think where it's right to put this is Matt Williams, pitching coach. This goes entirely on the shoulders of Matt Williams. Look, hitting is fine. Hitting is going really well.
It's not a bad argument.
That would be who's the hitting coach there at South Carolina? That would be Joey Holcomb. He's doing fine. Matt Williams, and by extension, Monty Lee, who is the recruiting coordinator, on the same page. Now, Matt Williams
is only in his first full season at South Carolina. So a little bit of time should be due there. But this is South Carolina, where the expectations are as high as they could possibly be.
Yeah.
They are Mount Kilimanjaro, man. They are up there.
I don't hate
that kind of time.
Yeah, and I don't disagree. I don't necessarily disagree with that take. It is on the pitching coach. It is on Matt Williams. And you said it. He is in his first year. But what I would say, Diesel, is the talent when it comes to at the end of the day, and I'm going to play devil's advocate to what I've been saying the past month and a half. At the end of the day, is it a talent issue or is it a coaching issue? What I mean is it Matt Williams' fault? Is it Mark Kingston's fault for not developing players? Because that's one thing you hear from Gamecock fans. They'll tell you, we're not happy with the player development that we've had. Or is it a simple thing of Diesel, we're just not as talented. We just don't have the talent that other teams have. We don't have the guys. We don't have the horses that these other teams have.
What is it about Ray Tanner? Well, okay, I think we know what it is about Ray Tanner because we heard about the way he reacted when they fired, the previous head foot, when they fired Muschamp.
Sure.
Yeah. And he cried and he was really broken up about it. And he wants to give the head coach as many chances to change his staff and rearrange the deck chairs in the Titanic as he can to get it right. But this is the MO of South Carolina athletics, and it starts with Ray Tanner. The MO is, well, Shane, you got to figure it out. So you got to fire your coordinator. You got to fire your recruiting guy. You got to fire your analyst. But Shane, you're safe. Don't worry. I mean, are we shocked, Cole, that the turnover that you see in South Carolina's athletic department has kept them from being elite at all levels?
Well,
it all starts and finishes with Ray Tanner.
It does.
He won't make those moves in football. He's seemingly, if you believe that Mark Kingston needs to go, he won't make that move in baseball either. He's giving head coaches infinite amounts of patience, but that's not the case with the support staff.
Let us know where you stand and what would have to happen for you to flip where you are. 71307. Start your text with the word fan. Phone lines open as well, 844-FAN-PHONE. That's 844-326-3663. Diesel, we've asked that question to guests. We've asked that question to Chris Phillips, for example. Mm-hmm. And I think the best answer that we have heard on the question that you just asked is Ray Tanner's a previous what? Can someone out there fill in the blank? He is a former coach, right?
Yeah.
He's a former coach himself, so that hurts South Carolina.
We hear about coaches who will do whatever it takes to make sure his players are happy and comfortable and whatever it might be. Ray Tanner is obviously a coach's AD.
Yeah. He
wants to do everything he can to maintain the stability at his head coach positions.
It doesn't help. It doesn't help that he's a former coach because I think that, again, I'm just telling you what I think. I think there's a lot of grace shown. I think there's a lot of time given. And you say, well, Shane's only going into his fourth season. Okay, well, guess what? Kingston's going into his seventh, right? If I'm playing devil's advocate, Kingston's in his seventh season and hasn't gotten to the College World Series. So my point is, where I agree with your take on Ray Tanner, the athletic director, Ray Tanner hasn't helped himself. Ray Tanner has not helped the university and the sporting programs. And I'll be honest with you, I would actually say that Ray Tanner's gotten in his own way. I think he's gotten in his own way.
You got to be willing to make the tough decisions. And it seems as if Ray Tanner is not willing to do that.
Well, being a former baseball coach is obviously different than being a football coach because he coached the game. He coached them to national championships. And, for whatever reason, Diesel, he wanted to leave baseball and become the AD. But if we're calling it like it is, the biggest mistake that was made was his mistake. Well, I mean by that, The biggest mistake was him leaving to go be an AD because he was a much better baseball coach than he was AD.
Yeah, but I can only imagine the paycheck to be an AD is way higher. You get a lot more power.
Sure.
You get a lot more influence. You get into better golf clubs.
You suck at your job.
Yeah.
Again, what good hire, if we're being honest, what good hire has Ray Tanner made? Was Dawn Staley hired? I'm pretty sure she was. Dawn Staley was hired before Ray Tanner became the AD. I'm pretty sure, Diesel.
Lamont Paris is
Lamont Paris is a heck of a hire. You're right.
But outside of Lamont Paris, what good hire has he made?
Jury's still out on football. Jury's still out on the football coach, right? Can you say that's a good hire yet? I may get pushback, but no, you can't say it's a good.
He cries when he fires Shane Beamer one day.
There's a good chance he cries when he fires anyone. So to put a bow on this conversation, South Carolina, we're reacting to what we saw last night. South Carolina could still come out and win the next two, and they'd be in good shape. They'd be in really good shape. And then against Tennessee, who knows, right? However, we're reacting to what we saw last night, and what we saw last night tells us that South Carolina starting pitching is terrible. When you pitch 0.1 innings, that's not going to get you far, Roman Kimball, it's now time that he may have to be pulled altogether because he gave up 4 runs and 5 batters, Diesel. 4 runs and 5 batters, 2 walks.
Unlikely to be successful when you put your team in a hole.
And that's the hard part, right? Like, what people don't understand is South Carolina fans will get upset because of what happened last night, and a lot of them will miss the point of what I'm saying. South Carolina's still a good team, but it's hard to win when you, as you just said, Diesel, put yourself in a hole to start. You can't come back from that.
You should have 5 or 6 more wins.
Sure.
With the bats that you have, you should have 5 or 6 more wins on the season than you have, and it's because your starting pitching is a liability. That's an overreaction, or not an overreaction, but a reaction to what we saw last night from South Carolina. I'm going to tell you what's going on tomorrow night. It's a big-time event in downtown Spartanburg at Morgan Square. It is the name reveal for the brand-new Spartanburg Baseball Club. Cole, you and I will be there. The event is from 5 to 9. We'll be there roughly 6 to 8. Reveal coming around 7:20. Definitely want to see you guys there because they're going to do it up big, right? It's going to be a big party, and it'll be your first chance to find out what the new mascot is. And go ahead and get your Spartanburg Baseball Club merchandise, your hats, your jerseys, your mini bats, all that great stuff. They're going to have all of it tomorrow at Morgan Square in downtown Spartanburg. Cole, when we come back, we're going to keep things on the coaching side. And, maybe it's a little bit more sunshine pumping coming from Pickens County.
No.
Just as there's some sunshine pumping coming from, Richland County? Is that where Columbia is?
Yeah.
Right? Richland County? Yeah, we're going to talk about that next. An article that's blowing an awful lot of smoke up Dabo's skirt. I just don't know if you guys are buying it or not. That's coming up next. Tolo's here on the Fan Upstate. Tolo, shout yourself out. Tell us where you're listening from on the text line, 71307. Start your text with keyword fan. Tell us where you're watching from on the stream. If you are streaming us, awesome. If you're not and you want to see Cole and our faces, go to Facebook, go to Twitter, go to YouTube, search The Fan Upstate. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, follow button, whatever it is you see on that platform, and jump on board. We got JD in Simpsonville on the stream saying, if we flounder these last 5 games, I think your opinion should definitely flip. I would say Kingston is absolutely done if that scenario plays out, and you would have no choice but to flip your opinion. Now we just got to figure out who we want. Well, JD and all Gamecock fans in the audience, we know what the real inspiration for the flip of a coaching situation is going to be. If Eric Bakich and Clemson surpasses you as a program and can do it for another year or 2, the seat's going to get awfully hot because South Carolina fancies themselves, and they have been over the past 15 years or so, fancies themselves the superior baseball program.
And the reality of it is South Carolina hadn't dominated Clemson on the baseball diamond.
Right. But Gamecock fans feel like they should.
They should.
And so that's, we've seen it in the Michigan-Ohio State rivalry. We've seen it in the Alabama-Auburn rivalry. If you can't get it done in those rivalry games, you're not going to be the head coach for very long.
And by the way, if you missed our last segment, if you're just tuning in, several ways for you to go back. You can listen on the Rewind feature on the Odyssey app. Also on the Twitter. I said the Twitter. On Twitter at TheFanUpstate. That last segment is posted, the very last tweet on our Twitter.
Cole, I was scrolling around Clemson Twitter earlier today. And, you see a lot of this on social media coming from the Homer accounts. But I wonder, Cole, how much the Clemson fan base buys into this level of sunshine pumping, okay?
That needs to be a segment, by the way.
This level, sunshine pumping?
Clemson Twitter. I like it.
I saw an article today, Cole, posted by the Clemson Insider that's titled, "With his selective process, Dabo Swinney has made Clemson's offer mean something." Now, I'm not impugning the author of the article here. It's Jason Priester's article.
Jason's a great guy, great author.
If you're a diehard Clemson fan, I invite you to go read it.
Yep. I haven't read it yet, by the way, so I'm interested.
Some love, but does it really? Does a Clemson offer still mean something, or is the Clemson Insider guilty of trying to put us in a spin cycle, Cole?
So because I haven't read it.
Yeah.
And again, I know Jason, he's new with the Insider. He just joined the Insider not long ago. Give me a quick synopsis of what this meant. Just in terms of, I hear what you say in terms of Dabo's offer still meaning something, but give me a little more meat than I will respond to.
Yeah. So in the article, in a general sense, Cole, is talking about Dabo Swinney and his policies towards the transfer portal and name, image, and likeness, and how he goes about making offers to prospects, and how Clemson gives fewer offers out than most other schools do. And I question, Cole. I mean, is that spin cycle? Is that trying to make us understand? I mean, it's certainly trying to qualify why Dabo and Clemson does what they do. It's also trying to qualify in the minds of the fans who see things like 12 guys leaving in the portal, 0 guys showing up in the portal, and them looking around at Florida State crushing it in the portal, at Oregon crushing it in the portal, and saying, guys, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Why are we not fixing this? So, Cole, I want to take a little look back at what's going on with Clemson recruiting over the past couple of years. And I want to ask you, do you believe that a Clemson offer still has this magical, mystical, special, warm, fuzzy feeling behind it?
Okay.
Or is this just trying to convince Clemson fans that all is well and nothing is wrong, Cole? So if you look back at Clemson recruiting over the past, 15 years or so, Dabo took over 2009, 15 years ago. He's done really well for himself there. Recruiting was not particularly great under Tommy Bowden, and Dabo's first year at Clemson wasn't great in recruiting. 37th. You wouldn't expect it to be. I'm not going after Dabo for having the 37th best class in 2009. Since then, Cole, they've only fallen outside of the top 20 one time. So shout out to them and what they've been able to accomplish since essentially 2010.
Yeah.
14 years. They've only been outside of the top 20 one time. That was in 2017. They were 17th in recruiting rankings. And all of these numbers come from Rivals. And they've done very well for themselves. Since 2018, Clemson has been just on a tear. 8th, 9th, 2nd, 6th, 10th, 10th, and 10th. Now, I know you might be saying to yourself, what happened here? And 2020, they're the second ranked recruiting class. Then they've fallen to 6th, 10th, and 10th. Still good. Still very, very good to be in the top 10 in recruiting. Sure. But things are kind of falling off there just ever so slightly. I mean, you would think that if you have the 10th best recruiting class, then you have a very good shot of being in the college football playoff.
Yeah.
If things fall out. I mean, it doesn't always work that way. Just because you have the 10th best class doesn't mean you're going to be the number 10 team in the country. You know what I'm saying, right?
So let me say this to answer your question about if it still means something, getting an offer from Clemson. Mm-hmm. I do think to a lot of people, it does still mean something. It does.
Who? All right, here's the question I'm asking. Do you think it still means something to the 17, 18-year-old kid at a high school? Or does it mean something to the Clemson fan who believes that Dabo can do no wrong?
No, I think there's a ton of kids that are coming out of high school, 17, 18-year-olds, that this offer from Clemson still means a ton. And I'll tell you why. And I'll also tell you if it's a good thing or bad thing, but let me tell you why. Dabo Swinney, whether you agree with it or disagree with it, he has been very targeted, if you will. He has always went with a very targeted approach in who he wants to recruit. So he looks for certain kids with certain traits, certain morals, certain beliefs, and he says, Dabo has said many times that he wants his offer to mean something. That's why he don't offer freshmen and sophomores in high school. So to answer your question, I think there are a lot of kids out there that when they get an offer from Clemson, when they get an offer from Dabo Swinney, the offer still means a ton because Dabo does target who he wants and he knows what he's looking for, not just in a player, but in a person.
Okay, so you say that a lot of kids feel this way, but my question, Cole, is do the best.
Well, let me finish. That's where I was going. So, and then when you create that culture, here's the issue. When you create a culture of we're going to target these kids that have these traits, not only in what they have as a player, but as what they have as a person, when you target them, that's great. You're going to build a great culture. You're going to create a culture within your program that is able to be looked at as one of the best cultures in college football because of the people that are in the program. The kids that are playing football are fantastic kids. When you look at who graduates from Clemson, they go on to be fantastic human beings. So when Dabo targets those players, what he's doing is he's being very selective and targeting who he wants. And when he finds the one that he wants, he brings them in. And I think a lot of it has to do with their character and their traits. To answer your question, there is a double-edged sword here. It's a great thing to have a great culture. It's a great thing to have kids who want to be there. It is a fantastic thing, Diesel, to have kids who are high in character, who have great morals. However, the other side of that sword is when you target, when you generalize an audience, right, you're going to get more options. But when you target an audience, you're not going to necessarily get the best players. So the question that you're asking is the best players. No, Dabo's not getting the best players. And the simple reason is because he is still recruiting the same way and he's still looking for the same traits in every recruit, Diesel. And when you do that, you're going to miss out on a lot of players that are a lot better than the players that you have. But guess what? He's stubborn. He wants the players in his program that have the traits that he's always recruited. He's not going to change his ways. It is a double-edged sword. It's great for the culture, but at the end of the day, to answer your question, Diesel, it hurts because he doesn't get the best talent out there.
Ricky Mullinax on the stream says, for the love of money, I hope South Carolina buys all the players. Well, Ricky, that goes back to the audio that we had in the middle of the week, the audio from Brian Kelly saying that a lot of players want to be bought. And hey, again, I'm not sitting here impugning Dabo's decision-making necessarily. He's done exceptionally well on the recruiting trail. 2025, you look at the 2025 recruit list or commits list, and we say that in air quotes, commits list at this point. Currently 7th, includes 8 4-stars, 0 5-stars. That does include quarterback Blake Hebert from Greenwich, Connecticut. 11 players are currently committed, so 7 of 11 commits for the 2025 class. Again, very, very early on that are 4-star guys. I understand, Cole, that the way Dabo does things is different. He offers fewer scholarships. He doesn't offer scholarships to freshmen and sophomores in high school. But Cole, when you see the results slip from 2nd to 3rd to 14th to 13th to 20th over the past 5 seasons as your final AP rankings, you know, the question is how long, Cole, are fans going to be interested in the we're doing things the right way argument?
They're not.
Fans want to win.
They're not interested in it.
Fans want to win. And look, the article here says that Clemson has done a lot of things in NIL that really target retention on the roster, not so much attraction. Brian Kelly said it. A lot of players want to be bought. That's not the way Clemson does things. They want to retain. They want to develop. They want to build those relationships, which I'm sure is a way most college football coaches feel. We talked about it with Brian Kelly. I'm sure there's a lot of coaches who feel that way, but also understand that they can't say these things out loud because they know it'll be used against them on the recruiting trail. But Cole, I mean, sunshine and rainbows are great, but they don't get you wins.
No,
and you're seeing the results falter. I know I have complete and utter assurity that Dabo Swinney's never going to change the way he does things. And he is hoping beyond hope that some rules come back into the game that allows his style to come back around, because then he can say, look, guys, I've been doing it this way, the right way all along.
Yeah.
And all these other guys that have been throwing bags of cash at you and this and that, they can't do that anymore. And they're going to be struggling for the next couple of seasons, figuring out how the hell they're going to rebuild their cultures and get something like we have here at Clemson.
It's very, very simple. And I'm glad you asked the question, Diesel, because this is something that needs to be said, but Dabo will never admit. His idea of culture, even though it's fantastic to work around, even though it's fantastic to go to the lake and have fun with the guys and everybody gets along, the culture does work. However, what needs to be said is having a good culture isn't the only recipe to success in 2024. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, culture really did matter because culture leveled the playing field, right? You could win some games that you may not have been as talented in because you did have a good culture. You had a group of guys who were bought in, Diesel. However, guess what's leveled the playing field now? It's NIL and portal. And Dabo's refusal to adapt is showing that culture that he's created, it's nice. Parents love it, but does it get wins? The simple answer is no.
What I am seeing, Cole, though, and hey, we're not in the heads of these 5-star guys who are leaving a great situation at one school and trying to go somewhere else. We can't understand why it is they make the decisions that they make. But I am curious, Cole, as to why we're not seeing this amazing culture convert the guys who just want the bag, right? Like, we haven't seen it at all.
And that won't happen.
Not one.
That won't happen.
Not one 5-star recruit has said, you know what? Ole Miss is offering me $500,000 in cash to come play wide receiver down there. But man, I really like those fireside chats that they have up there at Clemson. Let me go there. I mean, you can't convert these guys by having a great culture. And I mean, I understand doing things differently, but how long are you going to allow that to happen?
I completely agree. For the record, I completely agree. And what we have to remember is, and what's so fascinating about this, Diesel, is every kid, every person's different, right? I'm different than you. You're different than the guy beside you, and he's different than the guy beside him. And what's so interesting is there is a large majority of football players who still get that offer from Clemson, and it still does hold a ton of weight. However, to go back to what you opened this segment with, the answer can be yes, it does hold weight. But at the same time, you have to complete the sentence. And if you complete the sentence tells you, yes, it does hold weight. However, comma, it does not translate to wins.
It's not the deciding factor.
No.
It holds weight, but it is not the deciding factor. I mean, again, these guys aren't choosing Clemson because they have the best of the best, are not choosing Clemson and choosing to eschew the bag of cash for this great culture.
Here's what's fascinating. And I'll ask this question. We might have to come back to this question because this may turn into a segment. Diesel, if Dabo right now in 2022, 2023, and 2024, if Dabo was championship-less, would his tune still be the same? If he didn't already have 2 titles.
It's true.
I mean, let's be honest. That you can say you're high on morals and character when you've got 2 natties.
Well, I further that question, and we can answer both of these questions in the next segment if you want to, Cole. If we go to a 14-team playoff and Clemson has missed it 2, 3, 4 years in a row out of the gate.
Adios.
Wow. Okay, he's saying it.
Adios. 12 team, and you can't make it in the ACC.
I mean, they finished 20th last year in the AP poll.
No.
So that right there is a finish outside of the top 12 or top 14. You're not making the playoff with a season like that.
If you don't
if that upward blip becomes, or downward blip becomes a trend, and you're not making the college football playoff, what are they going to do? Are they going to try to force Dabo to change his ways, or are they going to let him go?
If you don't make the playoff in the first couple of years in the ACC, and it's 12 teams, like, bro,
well,
come on.
As much as realignment is changing, the ACC may not be involved in the tournament at all.
It may not, but you've got to get there. If you're Clemson in the 12-team tournament, you should be there every year. You should have a reserved seat every freaking year. Speaking of blip, Diesel, the word you just said, Texter chimes in and says, any idea why the Goodyear blimp would be circling Simpsonville? Well, Texter, we don't know why the Goodyear blimp is circling Simpsonville. Maybe Simpsonville's done made it big. They've got Goodyear circling around. The Goodyear blimp is circling Simpsonville. I know we have a lot of listeners over towards Simpsonville, so let's get some confirmation. Hey, Texter, if you see it, snap a picture, tweet it at us. I'm at the Cole Bryson. Diesel is at Diesel on Radio. I want to see it. I want to see the Goodyear blimp. Maybe tell it to come over toward Garlington Road, and let's see if we can see this thing for ourselves. That is interesting. We'll see if we can find out some information on that. Diesel, coming up next. There are a ton of headlines to get to. However, on this show, we don't call them headlines. We call them daily wires. Did the Hurricanes bring us good news last night? We will find out next. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson, and this is The Fan Upstate. quick segment. Oh, Diesel just brought coffee. It smells so good. The smell of coffee, hot take. Ready? You ready for a really hot take? The smell of coffee is better than the taste of coffee.
100% agree.
Yes.
100%
Yes.
agree. There's a reason why people put sugar and cream in their coffee.
It smells so good. I got a text from my buddy Tony during the break about that blimp. He said, I think it's for the Goodyear 400 in Darlington. That would make sense.
Yeah,
Goodyear blimp.
I was guessing maybe they were stopping at the Donaldson Center just outside of Malden.
I thought they were on the way here.
Those of you in Simpsonville were seeing it, maybe circle to gain altitude. I don't know how blimps work.
I don't either.
I know how they come down in a blaze, but
especially those Chinese ones, right?
Exactly. Well, I was talking about the German ones.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, that works too.
Yeah.
So Tony said, "Hey, they're Goodyear 400." I forgot it was the Darlington race was the Goodyear 400. All right, very short segment. Some daily wires. We will hit them quick and come back to them. Hurricanes Diesel. Bad night again. Another loss. Not a good night for the Hurricanes. They are down 3-0 after dropping another game to New York.
Yeah, that's one of the tough parts about being in the Eastern Conference. There is you got to play New York, and New York was really, really good this year. Florida Panthers really good as well. So you get to them to this point in the playoffs, everybody's really good, but New York was probably the best team in the whole tournament. Also in the NHL last night, the Stars tied their series with a 5-3 win over the Avalanche. Tonight you have the Panthers and Bruins at 7, Oilers and Canucks at 10 p.m. Last night, the Cleveland Cavaliers tied the series with Boston with a huge 118-94 win. Dallas also got back on the winning side of things, even the series with OKC 119-110. Tonight, the Knicks look to take a 3-0 lead over the Pacers, while the Timberwolves also look to take a 3-0 lead over the Nuggets. And the Braves are in New York tonight, Diesel, to take on the New York Mets. Uncle Charlie Morton, getting the start for the Bravos. Hopefully, they can keep this out a little win. Is 2 games a winning streak? Can I say that or no? No, it's not a win. It's not a winning streak. But has to be 3. This is based off of the coach in the movie Major League. He says you win 2, that's a coincidence. You get 3, that's called a winning streak. It has happened before. So they're not on a streak yet, but they win tonight. But they are on the verge of a winning streak. All right, I'll take it. Also, we talked about this yesterday toward the end of the show. Huge news out of Tiger Town. Clemson basketball landed Duke transfer Christian Reeves, a 7-1 center, Diesel, with 3 years of eligibility left. How about it? How about that? Look at the basketball program using the hell out of the portal. When's the last time you heard of a Duke transfer going to Clemson? Ever? Yeah, I'm guessing. How much did he play? 3 games. Year? 3 games. Okay. He redshirted. Okay. Maybe not. Maybe he's not to be recruited by Duke, you're obviously really good. Yep. 7'1". 7'1". Yeah, that's big. Dude, that's a tree. He is. Also last night, South Carolina baseball dropped game 1 to Georgia. 14-10 was the score, 24 runs. They look to even the series today at 5:30. And at 6 o'clock tonight, the Clemson baseball Tigers look to jump out to a 1-0 lead over Wake Forest. I got to remind myself that today is Friday for some reason after being out yesterday. Yeah. And I felt like I got an entire 2-day weekend crammed into one day of vacation day to go see Foo Fighters. I got to remind myself it's not Monday because it feels like a Monday. Luckily, it's Friday. That's a good feeling, though. Having to remind yourself that it's Friday, not Monday. Feel good. It's like, 1 day back, then 2 more days off. That's great. Yes. All right, what's coming up next, Diesel? Yeah, Cole, when we come back, do you remember that little incident at the roast of Tom Brady where Tom got up and got into the comedian's ear? Well, that wasn't scripted. That was 100% real. We'll get into it next from somebody who was there on the day as his perspective. Coming back on the other side, you Tolos. Tell us where you're watching from on the stream. And tell us where you're listening from on the text line, 71307. Start your text with keyword fan. We'll be right back to Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson on the Fan Upstate. Cole, I love roasts. I love
Pork or
all
beef?
of them. Both. Both. No, I used to watch pretty much nothing but Comedy Central back in the day, and they showed the roasts all the time, and they were fantastic. Harsh humor is the only thing that gets me to laugh. If you're giving me like milquetoast humor, don't even bother, right? Give me the meanest of the mean. That's what I want to see, and I think that's what Tom Brady should have known that he was walking into in his Netflix roast the other night. It's all the same people that did all the Comedy Central roasts, but they put it on Netflix so that they could make it as long as they wanted and as raunchy as they wanted. And by God, didn't they? If you haven't seen it yet, it's on Netflix. I think it's called The Greatest Roast of All Time. Search probably roast Tom Brady. You'll find it, Cole. But there was something that happened early in the roast that has gotten a lot of people a little concerned, a little interested about what was happening in real time there. So again, Tom Brady, greatest football player of all time.
Yeah.
Greatest quarterback of all time. He goes and does his roast. They don't roast nobodies, right? He knows, I'm sure, what they're going to joke about. At least had a good sense of what they're going to joke about before they got up there and told their jokes.
Sure.
But the very first roaster, Jeff Ross, who this is all he does. I think somebody made the joke, if we stop doing roasts, Jeff Ross is going to have to apply for unemployment. Like, this is all he does. But Jeff cracked a joke about the first day that Tom Brady was a New England Patriot. He said, and I'm paraphrasing here, not quoting, but he said, Tom walked into Robert Kraft's office and said, I'm the best decision you ever made. And then asked, would you like a massage?
Oh, I saw that live. So
good.
Man, I was
so good.
I'll be real quick though. I didn't think, like, when I heard that, I didn't think it was terrible.
No, it didn't seem like. I think 2 or 3 jokes had already been made about Tom's ex-wife Giselle.
Yeah,
banging the karate instructor. Like, you would think that would be the joke that would really get Tom
I thought
going,
so.
right? Like, that is insanely personal.
Yeah,
that is rough. I mean, I think his wife was even in the room. That's the mother of his kids.
Yeah.
That didn't bother him. What did bother him was Jeff Ross saying, you offered your boss a massage with a happy ending. And you know what Tom did? Tom got up, walked across the stage about 15 feet, got in Jeff Ross's ear, as if there's not microphones everywhere. You hear him say, don't do that bleep again.
It immediately took me back to Will Smith.
Exactly.
It really did.
Exactly.
So what joke is worse, though?
Right.
That one or the G.I. Jane joke?
Oh, the G.I. Jane joke was tame.
I thought it was funny.
It was funny. So, yeah, I mean, Jeff made the joke about Robert Kraft liking happy endings, and Tom got up, whispered in his ear, and said, don't do that bleep again.
What's interesting, Diesel, is we talked about this off the air. They did not, for this Tom Brady roast, they did not tell any of the roasters that Robert Kraft was going to be in attendance. Okay. So they didn't want them to make jokes about Robert Kraft intentionally.
Well, I guess it seems to be in this, what this information that we've got here is coming from Andrew Schultz, who's a comedian who was there on the dais. He got up and he presented. If you remember him, he had the high top fade.
Yeah.
And he had a kind of a porn star, child molester mustache. And he said, quote, when Tom checked Jeff Ross, I think that was 100% real. The reason why I think it's real is because they told us no jokes about happy endings with Bob Kraft. That was a no-go, no-fly zone with these comedians. Now, I don't know if you know a lot of things about comedians who tell filthy jokes, Cole.
Mm-hmm.
You're probably not going to be able to tell them what to do.
No.
Like, they'll get up and they'll say anything. I mean, we saw the Nikki Glaser stand up. We've watched her stand-ups before. She says horrible things about herself. You're not going to be able to get these comedians to muzzle something that they think is funny. That's what they do, right?
It is. And what's interesting is Tom doing that. I could see it being real, and I'll be honest with you, I could also see it being part of the act. I could also see someone saying to them, like, let's be honest about this, Diesel. What was the reason we talked about the Will Smith ceremony that night with G.I. Jane? The only reason we were talking about it was because of the G.I. Jane joke. So maybe they said, hey, we need a little bit of acting to get people to do exactly what we're doing and talking about it.
Well, Andrew Schultz said, quote, he was ready to shut the whole thing down. That was an alpha blank move right there. And I'm thinking, Cole, how bad would it have been?
Ooh.
How monumental, astronomical across
I know where you're
the
going.
Sports and comedy world.
Yeah.
If Tom Brady really had shut that roast down right then and there. I mean,
are you talking about the whole roast or just that roast?
I don't know. Again, I don't know. But
God,
again, Tom knew what he was walking into.
He did.
He looked very uncomfortable for a lot of this, though. Like, what did you think, Tom? What did you think that all these comedians who tell terrible jokes about everybody from actors who bang porn stars to ex-presidents who bang porn stars, like, you think that they're just going to get up there and take it easy on you because you were good at football? You thought the worst you were going to catch were deflated football jokes? I don't understand what the hell Tom Brady thought was going to happen at this thing. If he gets one comedian in, then he's got this like blank, nervous, twitchy stare on his face.
Again, other than the Robert Kraft jokes, I don't think Brady was, again, we don't know. No, we didn't talk to Tom Brady, but I don't think anything bothered him. Like, even the personal stuff with his ex-wife, I don't think that bothered him.
I think that tells you what I'm going to use the word here, Cole. This is probably an overreaction. I'm going to use the word sociopath.
For Brady?
For Brady. When you can tell jokes about the mother of his children, his ex-wife, who's in the room with him, banging the karate instructor, that doesn't bother you. But a joke about your ex-boss bothers you to the point that you got up and
even Brady
the stage and shut somebody down.
Even Brady made a joke about his ex-wife. So, like,
again,
apparently,
sociopath.
Apparently it didn't. Apparently it did not have any effect on him. And again, I don't know if I truly believe that it was 100% fake. I just do think that there is some validity in wanting to make headlines. Like, we knew that the whole roast was going to be good enough to where they didn't have to make headlines.
Hey, I thought the Will Smith smack, I was 100% in the camp that I thought Will Smith smacking Chris Rock was 100% fake and was 100% there to just build audience. But then we get deeper into the situation and we find out, this goes deep into Will's relationship with Jada and how bad that got and how much of a cuckold she made him feel like and all those things, right? So I don't know, man. We've seen photos of Tom and Robert Kraft, and you can pause a photo anytime you want to, right? Or pause a video or snap 100 photos and pick the one that kind of makes it look like they're about to kiss.
Yeah.
But it kind of I was searching for photos to make the thumbnail for today's YouTube video.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to sift through about 10 of them that looked like Tom and Bob were about to make out. It was weird, man. Like, it was really, really strange. So I just asked the question, if Tom Brady had shut down, whether it was just Jeff Ross or shut down the whole thing, would that have been an alpha move or a total B move? Right? I mean, there were thousands of people there, millions of people watching online live and after the fact. If he had shut it down, Cole, that would have severely hurt his image, and it would have opened him up to so many more awful jokes online. So I give Tom a smidge of credit. If that really did get to him, if that was really real, and he let it go, because I think even this comedian here, Andrew Schultz, said he had a joke about HJs with Bob Kraft in the arsenal too.
Yeah.
And then he said to himself, maybe not. Maybe I shouldn't tell that joke.
JD on the stream says maybe he doesn't respect his ex-wife anymore, but respects Kraft. Very well could be. We don't know. Again, that's the whole thing. Nobody knows the answer, right? Yeah. Nobody deep down knows how he truly feels about his ex. I will say this. I think that if it's told before the roast that Robert Kraft is off sides, like if Netflix is telling you that, if Brady's telling you that, whoever's in charge of this thing, Diesel, I would put more of the blame on Jeff than I would Tom.
What I call that is an alpha move from Jeff Ross. I mean, this guy is roasts on Comedy Central, right?
He is.
He is always the first one to come out and roast. Are you telling me they're going to take that guy off because he made a joke about, giving a little rub and tug to your boss?
Yeah.
You really think that's going to happen? No, it's not.
I just don't think it. Again, it comes down to what do you believe is the boundary, right? And Jeff Ross, to your point, probably, and again, we don't know this, but he probably has zero boundary. He probably has no boundary whatsoever. So to him, in his wicked mind, right, there's probably no boundary at all. However, to a lot of people that are doing those roasts and to a lot of people who are sitting in the crowd and watching at home like we were, there is a boundary. But what we have to remember is he's the worst of them all. He is literally the worst of anybody who got on that stage, other than Nikki. Him and Nikki would probably go hand in hand for a tie. But he's the worst. I don't think
see Nikki Glazer here in Greenville in a couple of weeks.
I don't think he has an internal boundary.
No.
So
he's the type of guy that if you tell him don't make a joke about this, he will 1,000% make 10 jokes about it.
JD asked a question on the stream, 5 o'clock fight. Could either of you two sit through a roast without wanting to punch someone? William says, please call out Rob for saying the OKC Thunder are going to win the Stanley Cup. Guy who placed $100 on a bet. Did he say that? I missed that. Robert Kraft said Oklahoma City Thunder are going to win the Stanley Cup.
On top of that, Cole, Julian Edelman, who was obviously there, he was talking about just how tense the situation was between Tom and Bill Belichick. He said, man, the tension in that room could cut glass with regards to Tom's reunion with Bill Belichick. So
I heard
obvious there where Tom's allegiances lie. His allegiances do not lie with Bill Belichick. They lie 1,000% with Bob Kraft.
And I heard an audio clip talking about the room before the roast started that when Kraft walked in, there was a lot of tension. So it's interesting, though, it's interesting to look at where the tension actually lies there because, at the end of the day, I think Tom and Bill respect each other. I think they do. I think they could go have dinner and not be an issue. I don't think there's as much beef there as many people do. Now, there may be some beef between Belichick and Kraft. I just don't know that there's as much there as people think between Brady and Belichick. It's fantastic. It's fantastic for viewership. It's fantastic for people like us that get to talk about it. It was not a roast to where I'm trying to figure out the best way to say this. It wasn't I've seen Jeff Ross roast. It wasn't a common roast to where it was a free for all in terms of you can just target anybody. I felt like, and again, you may disagree, I felt like when I watched it, it was very targeted toward 5 people. And that's the way it was designed and set up. That's the way it was supposed to be, right? We knew that Brady was going to catch heat. We knew that Belichick was going to catch heat. Kraft wasn't supposed to, but he did. But that's just, it was super targeted toward those people. And I thought it was funny because of that.
They're the biggest stars, they're the biggest names who are in the room. I mean, I don't expect Nikki Glazer to crack jokes about Randy Moss because I genuinely don't expect her to know who Randy Moss is. Right?
Sure.
So
she probably don't.
And hey, if the plan all along from the producers was to bring Robert Kraft into the room, but not tell anybody so that it would create the viral moment of you and I, who maybe we're not watching it live, saying, hey, man, you got to turn on this roast and watch this because Bob Kraft is in the room. He wasn't supposed to be there.
Yeah.
And they're going after Bob and Tom. I mean, that would be a great reason to tune in and watch.
Yeah. And again, I tuned in about the midway point, and then I watched the first half on rewind.
Trey says if there's ever a roast of Bryce Young, Bryce needs to have the same loyalty for David Tepper because he's the only reason that Bryce Young is there.
It's true.
JD did ask if he said for a 5 o'clock fight topic, could either of you sit through a roast without wanting to punch somebody? Yeah, JD, I love jacked up humor. It's the only thing that's funny to me.
Yeah, I could do it. I mean, it's you got to have thick skin.
To be roasted like that, that means you are the GOAT at something.
Yeah.
Right? It means you are the best ever at something. So again, they don't roast nobodies, but I thought, again, taking it for what it is, all we know as of right now is that it was legitimate and real. I thought it was a real weak move from Tom Brady. I thought it was soft, man. This is a guy who spent his entire career being the GOAT. And it was odd to me.
Wonder if he was told to. You think so?
It was odd to me that he didn't care about all these people talking about his ex-wife and his failed marriage. But one joke about Bob Kraft, I got to run.
But I'm saying, you think, what if somebody, one of the producers or Netflix, like there had to be a point person? Like, what if they said, Tom, you've got to be the one to shut Kraft? Because he was the closest. I don't know. I'm just thinking. I'm not saying that happened. I'm just thinking, like, if they were in the pre-show meeting and said, hey, somebody's got to be able to shut it down. Tom, you're the closest one. It's awkward. You may not want to, but you've got to. Isn't it
fascinating that we don't believe in the validity of anything we see anymore?
It's true. It's true.
We don't all just believe, oh my God, that's crazy.
Entertainment, right? That's why.
We all believe, 50% believe that it's real, 50% believe that it's fake.
It's because they put WWE on national TV. That's why. All right, coming up next, it is time. Every single Friday, we talk to Shane Connuck of the Charlotte Observer. Shane covers NASCAR for the Observer, and they are in the big state of South Kakalaki. Big state, maybe not as big as where they were a few weeks ago, but we'll call it big for this experiment. We'll talk about Darlington with Shane Connuck next. Every single Friday at this time, we talk to Shane Connuck of the Charlotte Observer to talk a little NASCAR. And before we get into Shane, this coming Sunday at Darlington, I want to go back to last week at Kansas to what was a very intriguing finish. Kyle Larson obviously gets the win, but what was your biggest takeaway from the race this past week at Kansas, Shane?
NASCAR is here, and this year just keeps on getting better. We've had a lot of close races in general. Then you have closest races. We had the closest finish that the NASCAR Cup Series has ever seen this past weekend. That's the biggest takeaway. Kyle Larson, the one who gets the win, really is one of the best drivers on the planet.
Shane Connuck joins us here on Wire to Wire. He's Cole Bryson. My name is Diesel. Shane, as we are going to one of the most legendary tracks on the NASCAR circuit this weekend, and you compare that to the trend in NASCAR viewership and attendance. I want to know, do you have any knowledge or insights on, the differences in attendance at the newer tracks, the non-traditional locations, versus these legacy tracks? I mean, you would think the legacy tracks, the Deep South tracks, places where NASCAR is still its strongest, do they see a higher percentage of attendance there, or is that something where I'm completely off base?
They do, but something that you're seeing now is NASCAR trying to tap into new markets, but also not overdoing it. And something that we've seen over the last 30 years or so has been certain markets starting to get two races, a race during the beginning of the season and then one later, like Darlington has. And then you start to see attendance kind of split. And then when tracks like Dover only host one race, that brings so much more attention and crowds to that one time it hosts something every year. Darlington, though, the Southern 500 in the playoffs, usually this year it's going to be the end of the regular season, is a crown jewel, the Southern 500. But this week's race in the spring, obviously they're doing the whole throwback weekend. I think that we're going to see a similar big Darlington crowd and a great race to follow it.
Shane, do you ever remember a time, I want to go back to that finish that you referenced last Sunday. Do you remember a time that NASCAR has seen a reaction, not only by the announcers on TV, the announcers on radio, but even the announcers even the pit team of Buescher? For the first 15 seconds after that race completed, everyone thought that Buescher was the winner until 15 seconds later, it was determined that Kyle Larson won. I thought that reaction, even on the radio call, just the 10 to 12, 15 seconds of really people just having it totally wrong, was something that I really haven't heard before.
That seems to be the reaction from a lot of people who have been around the sport that long, that there was never a time that it actually took about 3/4 of the way getting across the track, like you said, about 15 seconds until we were actually able to determine with confidence that Kyle Larson was indeed the winner. However, I noticed that just about 3 months ago, down at Atlanta Motor Speedway, 3 cars appeared to come across that finish line at pretty much the same time. And all of us right there in the media center was basically like, who was it? It could have been Kyle Busch. It could have been Ryan Blaney. And right away on the scoring monitor flashed up 99. And the reason why we all, Daniel Suarez won, and he indeed was the winner, because that was what it said right away. This time it said that Buescher, the 17, was the winner right away. And it took looking at the photo to determine that Larson had won it. And so that shows you just how close it was, but also not to mention really how close that Atlanta race was just a short time ago as well.
Shane, I understand that the official start-finish line at every NASCAR track is an invisible line created by a high-speed camera. But at first, there was a lot of reaction from the public about there being 2 different finish lines there at Kansas. It looked like maybe there was an old finish line that was painted on the track with a brand new one painted over top of it. And it leads to confusion. Has there been any explanation, or to your mind, is there going to be any follow-up from NASCAR about the quote-unquote different ghost finish lines there at Kansas?
there's been a lot of talk about that, like you said, and that's why it's a lot of emphasis on the way the finish lines are painted. I think in general, that's going to be something that people just pay a lot more attention to. Because honestly, being at the tracks is something I noticed. You look at that finish line and just being a spectator at a sporting event, everything feels that official. But you really look at the line, it's kind of on a hill, obviously, because of the banking. And it's always just how somebody painted it. And because of that, now we've learned that NASCAR, like you said, it's kind of an invisible line, essentially, on a monitor. And so what NASCAR has done a lot this week, some spokespeople have posted on social media, interacting back with fans about this and showing the images that they use and that they've actually always used to determine the winners of races and with these monitors, and how they always kind of had a line that was in an exact spot that wasn't necessarily exactly what was painted, and that with these pictures that they have, it displays it in a way that it's easy to tell really which car, like it's a lot clearer than just looking at a photo that you take with a camera in the moment. It's a whole detailed system with all timing to really determine the exact seconds of who actually won.
You can follow him on Twitter. We have him on every single Friday. We so much appreciate him coming on every Friday. But Shane Connuck with the Charlotte Observer, you can follow him on Twitter at Shane_Connuck. That's Connuck. Shane, when you saw that finish that we talked about, was the first thing that you thought about through the brain, through the mind of Shane Connuck was, man, Cole asked me the very last question on Friday, would a Ford win? And you were 0.001 second away from being wrong. But guess what? You were right.
And I knew in that moment they were saying Chris Buescher on the TV broadcast, and then I turn up the volume on MRN, and they're number 17, Chris Buescher has won the race. The Ford has won for the first time. And I, in the moment, was obviously, if you notice in the end, Kyle Larson's car clearly got a lot faster than him when they went past the checkered. So it looked like if you didn't see exactly where the finish line was, as if they came across so quickly that Larson just blew by him. But because of that, I felt like Larson had just passed him just before, and obviously it came down to that photo. So in the moment, I was saying Larson right away, and then it took everybody else a good 10, 15 seconds to realize that we were still without a Ford win.
Shane Connuck joins us here on Wire to Wire. He's Cole Bryson. I'm Diesel. You got questions for Shane, burning NASCAR questions? Get it to us on the text line 71307. Start your text with keyword fan or drop it in the chat on the stream. Shane, can you give me a driver or two that hasn't won this season who you believe is right there on the edge, who's trending in the right direction, just needs maybe one or two breaks to go his way? And of those, are any of them a real threat to win this weekend at Darlington?
Well, Martin Truex Jr. still hasn't won. And obviously he is a threat every race. And last year actually won the regular season. But this year, just Toyota's wins usually end up with Denny Hamlin getting into victory lane more often than not. And at this point, Truex just hasn't been able to get to the top. So I think that it's a matter of time before we see him. And that can especially happen at a track like Darlington. And then other than that, I want to mention Bubba Wallace here, because Bubba this year has been running particularly well, especially a little earlier in the season, and had several top fives, top tens early on. Hasn't won still since in a while now, dating back to that Kansas win. And then last year in the playoffs for the first time in his career, just running a lot better. And some of these tracks that kind of favor Toyota drivers, I think it's a matter of time before the 23 car gets back to victory lane as well.
Shane, I like what you said there with Bubba, and I think on the 1.5 miles, it does seem like those are his tracks to win. But what's interesting is it seems like and I know this sounds simple, but for Bubba, it just seems like it's been bad luck. If he's in the hunt, he might have a chance to finish top 10, but it seems as if in 2024 rather, he's had some terrible luck with wrecks, especially as of late.
Definitely, especially with the wrecks, like you said. And Hamlin, I think a lot of last playoffs really got caught up in that a lot too, kind of just trying to almost go too fast. I think with it's just the kind of thing that racing comes down to so many things that you have to really, your whole team just has to have so many things perfect over a long period of time. And it does feel like the way he's running, and obviously these 2311 Toyota Camrys are fast, and we've seen that from Tyler Reddick a lot. And obviously, as great as Denny Hamlin, their owner, is. And so I think it's a matter of time before Wallace elevates to what we're seeing Reddick already do.
Shane, I'm going to put you in a tight spot here. Go irrespective of your feelings about the drivers here, okay? Who has the greatest paint scheme ever in NASCAR?
Well, we're seeing a lot of great ones this weekend, obviously, but I've got to go with the old school. I'm going to go with this one. Dale Jr. had a car, I think in 2001, that had the MLB All-Star Game logo on it. That is an awesome way to just so simply tie into another sport and get another brand on there. I thought that one was just a random awesome one. But a lot of these old ones, obviously, we're seeing the old Kevin Harvick Budweiser car that was back toward the end of last season was pretty cool. And I think it's interesting how we're seeing Busch as a prominent sponsor back, that Ross Chastain has now, the way that Harvick had it and other drivers in the past had that old Busch or Budweiser logo. So we're gonna see all kinds of those paint schemes this weekend.
I was a big fan, Shane, of the old Bobby Labonte paint scheme. I always liked his. I thought that was a really classy look and just some really good colors. But hey, one thing that Diesel and I talked about on Monday, and I want to get your thoughts on this. We joke and we ask you about it every week if this will be the week that Ford wins. But now that this has gone on for so long, not only has Ford not won Sprint, they haven't won Xfinity or Truck. Is there some meat and potatoes? Is there some legs behind this trend that raise cause for concern for Ford? Or is this just a rare coincidence in your opinion?
I think it's rare. And like we've talked about, the last couple of years, it feels like while Fords weren't winless early in the year, they were not the dominant or maybe the second dominant car. It was much more Chevys are winning the most races, but Toyotas seem the fastest, and then Fords are the odd man out. And then at the end of the season, most of the champions are Ford drivers. So there you go. Fords think they're the best. The thing that happened this year was that Ford unveiled a new body, because obviously it's not really a car because NASCAR makes the chassis, which are the interior of each race car, identical. But with the new Ford Mustang Dark Horse body that was introduced for this year after last year, where not only Ryan Blaney being the Cup champion and a driver of Team Penske, the biggest Ford team, but also Cole Custer and Ben Rhodes, the Xfinity and Truck Series champions, were also Ford drivers. This year, since they've gone to the new Ford bodies, not, like you said, not a single Ford driver in any series has been able to get to victory lane. But I think here's the other part of it. The top Cup Series Ford guys in the past, you've had the Kevin Harvicks of the world being a part of those teams. And now Stewart-Haas Racing replaced Harvick with Josh Berry, who's a rookie and hasn't made a whole lot of noise yet this year. So I think that it's also that these Ford teams, especially in the Cup Series, are younger this year. And the only Ford drivers who usually are even going to have a chance to be toward the front are your obviously Blaney and then maybe like we saw this past week, a Chris Buescher, but there just aren't even as many Ford drivers who are as experienced at this point, and the manufacturer switched to a different body that they just haven't been able to figure out yet.
Shane, who do you think gets the win this weekend?
You know, I think it'll be, I haven't made my official pick yet, but I'm leaning with another. I'm going with another Chase Elliott win.
Ooh.
He has been running very well this year. He has a win already, but he's not just a win once, get in the playoffs kind of guy. And after going winless all of last year, obviously he had his injury, suspension, all of that. Chase Elliott is a star in this sport, and Hendrick Motorsports is a top team. And Chase Elliott's much a part of that as William Byron and Kyle Larson have been.
Shane, great stuff as always. When are you headed down there, man?
Tomorrow, tomorrow morning.
I love it. I love it. A little Mother's Day at Darlington. Hey, we appreciate you. Hope you have a great time, and we can't wait to hear all about it next week.
Thanks so much, guys. Can't wait to talk with you guys next week and hope to have a good time down in your state of South Carolina.
That's right. Come
Enjoy,
on
Shane.
down and stay a while. That is Shane Connuck. Fantastic stuff, as always. From the Charlotte Observer to Wire to Wire. That's where he brings you his NASCAR insight. And for Diesel, for him not to have been covering NASCAR not even a year, it'd be hard for us to find a better guest right now. I'm just going to be honest.
That is a dude who has clearly fallen in love with the sport. I mean, look, it's one thing to say, all right, I have to learn this so that I can cover this. But then, you hear Shane, he's just got a joy and a passion for it. And as somebody, I think he's told us on this show before, I could be wrong here, but I think he's told us like he never really grew up that big of a NASCAR fan, and then it became his job to cover NASCAR. I wouldn't believe it if you told me he did not grow up watching NASCAR. He seems like a guy who is just in the pocket on everything and plugged into every single element of what this sport is. Cole, when we come back, is it too soon? Is it too soon to make a TV show about one of the biggest sports scandals in the past, well, forever? Guess not. That's next. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about what's coming and ask the question, what do we think the ulterior motive is? That's coming up next here on Wire to Wire. He's Cole Bryson. I'm Diesel. You're the Tolos, and we are the Fan Upstate. Cole, I'm calling foul on this. I'm calling ulterior motives. Lionsgate Television announced yesterday that a scripted series based on the Shohei Ohtani and Ippei Mizuhara gambling scandal is in development.
I love it.
The story, the show rather, will detail the story of Ohtani signing a $700 million contract with the Dodgers just before the news broke that Ippei had stolen, allegedly, around $17 million to pay off illegal gambling debts. And I wonder, Cole, as we question everything in this society these days, do we believe that this series will be a puff piece to just sports wash Shohei Ohtani's potential involvement? That is what I am suggesting. Would love to hear from the Tolos, 71307. Start your text with keyword fan. Call us on the Renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone, 844-326-3663. Jump on the video stream on Facebook, on Twitter, and on YouTube. What do you think?
Diesel, you're wrong. I'll tell you, you're wrong.
So you bought in. You've already been brainwashed, Cole.
You're
you
saying
that Shohei is innocent and he had nothing to do with anything.
I do not think that this documentary in any way.
It's not a documentary.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This is a television
show.
Yeah, this is a television show, not a documentary.
Apologize.
Yeah, it's two different things.
No, I don't think it will, man. Listen, tell me again. You think it's gonna be created to make Shohei look clean? I would say the creation of it and the creation of the TV show is already a black cloud that Shohei wouldn't want because it's associated with him,
this
right?
Is a dramatization of the story. Here's a quote that comes from Albert Chin, one of the show's producers, said, quote, "This is Major League Baseball's biggest sports gambling scandal since Pete Rose. We'll get to the heart of the story, a story of trust, betrayal, and the trappings of wealth and fame." I mean, you're telling me, so it's going to be dramatized some.
I can't wait, man.
It's always dramatized, right? You know, like you see these movies that are based on a true story about some war hero, and then the family of that war hero comes out and says they totally mischaracterized our loved one. Like, the liberties are always taken in these situations. And I'm not buying it, man. My radar went up immediately on this. How much have we talked about, Major League Baseball needing to sweep this under the rug, needing beyond anything else, Shohei's image to stay intact and for Shohei to remain being a massive star. And what better way to do that than to have a TV show that makes Shohei look great? It pins everything on Ippei. Like, I've watched enough true crime television. I've listened to enough true crime podcasts and read the books. They can make anybody look like the guilty party if the right editorial choices are made.
And it goes back to something you said earlier in the show for me. Nothing's going to be able to change the majority of people's mind here. Even in my opinion, even if this TV show comes out, I do not believe that the ones who, let's say, for example, the ones who think right now that, Shohei had involvement, after this comes out, I still think for the most part, those are going to believe the same thing. I'll give you a great example. My mind just goes back to, what was it, last year with the entire Murdaugh trial and the documentary that came out about Alex Murdaugh. There were so many people. In that case, in that trial, Diesel, you had to pick a side, right? You had to say, I believe he did it or I believe he didn't do it. Well, the documentary comes out. There was two, actually. Two different networks did them. But for the most part, people still believe, I don't care what the documentary says. There's no way he did it. Or, some people say, oh, yeah, he definitely did it. I don't care what the TV show says. He did it, right? He killed his wife and kids. I think it's the same thing here. I think the TV show will come out, and I think the ones who are of the belief that Ohtani had involvement, I don't think they'll change their tune. I do not know, to answer your question. I know this is not where you want me to stand, and I know this is not the answer you want. But I do not know if I completely, Diesel, have picked a side. I think I'm somewhere in the middle. I think I'm somewhere in the middle on the Ohtani involvement. I really do. I think that it's hard for me to pick a side because yesterday we talked to a great guest on this very program about that very question. And I go back to Diesel. It's hard for me to pick a side because I can see how someone would do that Ipe, did steal that large amount of money. But then I asked Bob Nightingale of USA Today yesterday why people still refuse to believe that Ohtani has involvement. And it's because of things that he said. Well, it is $16 million coming out of an account, right? It is him and Ipe being such close friends that you would think that they would know about it. So, yeah, I just don't know where I stand yet.
There's a lot of people, Cole, and you hit the nail on the head. You will never convince a lot of people that this guy would not notice 17. Like, no one noticed. Shohei didn't notice. His accountants didn't notice. His girlfriend, I don't know, whoever. Nobody noticed that $17 million was gone. Nobody had a clue. Like, if somebody steals $20, you may not have a clue, or $100, and you're a millionaire and you steal $100 or 10 grand.
Sure,
you're not going to notice. Okay, that's plausible. But there's a lot of people, Cole, who you will never convince that 17 million goes missing from your accounts, and no one had a clue. But I appreciate what you said there, Cole. I appreciate what you said when you said, I don't know. And that's the mark. That's the mark of a real investigative mindset there.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not convinced that OJ murdered his wife and Ron Goldman. I'm not saying that I don't think he did it, because I think there is a very strong possibility.
Yeah.
But like, I grew up watching the trial live every single day when I came home from school, and watching documentaries about it after the fact. I learned about the masterful job that OJ's defense team did at creating reasonable doubt. With any other defense team, OJ would have been convicted for that in a heartbeat. But he had a fantastic defense team. I mean, I'm talking when they went to the house and they took the jurors to OJ's house, they swapped the photos on the walls to make it look like OJ actually did hang out with other black people because they wanted him to be sympathetic to the black jurors.
And
it's brilliant. I mean, you would think that is massively not illegal. That's not the right word, but a no-no. What's the legal term for a no-no? Like, you would think that that's not allowed. They can't tamper with the scene, but they did, and it worked. But again, you're not going to be able to convince some people that Shohei had nothing to do with this. And the way this is written from the show producer's mouth directly, Andrew Albert Chin, we'll get to the heart of the story, a true story of trust, betrayal, and the trappings of wealth and fame. Like, that just sounds like BS to me. It sounds like they're trying to sell you a story. And that's where my mind goes.
Isn't it okay, though? Like, isn't it okay to just say, I just don't know? Because I feel like we live in a world where you have to pick a side. You talk about the OJ trial for you being big for you growing up. I was a little bit too young to remember that, right? For me, the big one was the recent one with Murdaugh. And whether it's a court case or a trial that we're going through in sports with Ipe and Shohei, it seems as if everybody just forces you to take a side, even though sometimes, even going back to what you said with OJ and what I said with Murdaugh, I have gone back and forth, Diesel, 100 times. I don't know if I believe that man killed his wife and kids, like, I just don't know. I've said yes. I've said no. OJ, same thing. I don't know. Ipe, 16 million's a lot. I just don't know.
Trey says it's possible that he makes so much that he just assumes that it's there. You're not wrong, Trey. I mean, we talked about it with Dave Tepper and the $300,000 that he had to pay for throwing a drink on somebody. They were like, that's equivalent to like $16 for him. Like, it's hard to say that it's impossible for somebody to not notice. But Cole, like, the Shohei's silence is a red flag for me. The fact that we never hear from him, the fact that
No English.
he is, yeah, exactly. He is hidden behind this I don't speak English thing and doesn't talk. I know that I'm sure he's embarrassed by it, but like it stinks, man. It's stinky.
Texter says, until Ohtani insists on long prison time, the translator gets prison time and still says, yep, it was all me and not Ohtani. I won't believe him. Long prison time with no Ohtani parachute of money, then I'll believe the interpreter, says a texter. All right, coming up next, we do it every single day at 5 o'clock. I really love the first one that we're fighting about. The other two are good, but the first one, to me, I think it's going to ruffle some feathers. He's Diesel, I'm Cole Bryson, and this is The Fan Upstate. is time for a little action, a little fighting. You say, well, we don't condone fighting. Well, we don't either.
We're not one of those soft-ass shows that says things like that, Cole.
At 5 o'clock, though,
We make it a point to fight.
we allow it. Not only do we allow it, we do it every single day right here on Wire to Wire, the newest afternoon drive show in the upstate. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson. Let's get to it.
It's an all-out slugfest, and nobody's leaving unscathed. 3 topics, 1 winner. It's the 5 o'clock fight on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson on the Fan Upstate.
I want to let you know how this 5 o'clock fight works. If this is your first time being a Tolo, that stands for turn it on, leave it on. This is how this thing goes. There's 3 rounds. Diesel and I must disagree every single round. He comes up with some of them. I come up with a few of them as well. And you, the Tolos, are welcome to send your suggestions in. You get to decide who wins and who loses each round. 71307. Save that number in your phone. Just make sure you start your text with the word fan. That's 71307. We're also live Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. It's time, Diesel, for all right, this is one I brought to the table. And I'm just going to tell you like it is here. I know I'm going to get a lot of pushback on this, Diesel. I know it. You're going to push back on it too.
Why would you intentionally choose a fight topic that you know you're going to lose?
Because I'm very passionate and adamant about this. Let me tell you where this started, okay? A couple of weeks ago, I was having pizza for dinner. I went and got pizza and breadsticks.
Good choice.
Right? Always a good choice.
Yeah.
Easy, quick on the way home. Good cheat meal. However, I have a big issue. What my issue is, I will eat the breadsticks and consume myself, stuff myself with the breadsticks, and then not want the pizza. So the question is, can we just be honest about this? I know that we all love pizza, but Diesel, what's really better, breadsticks or pizza? There's no way you can say pizza's better than breadsticks.
Okay, even if I gave you, Cole, like the umbrella term breadsticks, which is more than just delicious. Breadsticks are great, okay? Just breadsticks with a little Parmesan cheese on top, a little butter, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm even gifting you like loaded breadsticks.
Yeah.
Right? Like you order from a pizza joint, national chain. You order like breadsticks, they've got cheese and bacon and jalapeno inside or whatever you like. That's still worse than the pizza. Even the best possible breadstick is worse than pizza. Pizza is a breadstick, just way better. It's the same bread, but it's flat. It's covered with cheese and pepperoni and toppings. It can be thick. It can be thin. It can be whatever you want it to be. Like, Cole, there needs to be a minimum of like a 2-to-1 or a 3-to-1 slice to breadstick ratio. Like you eat 2
There
slices
should
of
be,
pizza,
right?
You get a breadstick. You eat 3 slices of pizza, you get a breadstick. I don't know where your brain is at today saying the breadsticks are better than pizza.
So I know it sounds crazy, but like if you locked me
in marinara, so it's more like pizza.
Oh, you dip every single bit of it in marinara.
So
There's no. It's thicker. It's thicker. It's thicker. Listen, if you locked me in a room and said my last meal, what do you want for your last meal? I'm going to say, well, what are my options? And you're going to say this entire thin piece of pizza or this bag of crazy bread from Little Caesars. I'm going to say, give me the crazy bread and the marinara sauce over the pizza any day of the week.
Madcraft says between this and the corn dogs over hot dogs, Cole is officially an alien. So nobody's going to be on your side.
Oh, come on. Somebody is, man.
Somebody will be because there's always a contrarian. But you're not going to find – you're going to get smoked in round 1. It's not even close.
I just love those breadsticks, man.
Dwarfs breadsticks.
All right, let's see if I can make up for it in
Round 2, fight.
All right, Diesel came up with this one. I like it. The question that Diesel brought to the table is, what is more shocking? When you hear someone tell you they don't drink coffee or you hear someone tell you they don't drink alcohol. Diesel, I'll let you go first on this one.
Yeah, the crazy thing about this, Cole, is the numbers bear out that they are almost equal with our amount of consumption between coffee and alcohol. Okay, the average in America is 3 cups per person of coffee per person per day. So about 400 million cups of coffee per day are drunk by Americans. The National Institute of Health says that the average American drinks close to 2 alcoholic drinks per day. I mean, some people are drinking 4 and some people are drinking none. Okay, it's just an average thing here. But it blows me away, Cole, when somebody tells me they don't drink coffee. I can't, like, I could do without alcohol. I like alcohol, but I could not go without coffee. No way. Like, I've tried to do coffee cleanses and go like 10 days without a cup of coffee. Can't do it. It sucks.
Really?
Man. It sucks. I could not function without coffee. I don't understand how people do it. I'm a 2 to 3 cup per morning kind of guy, and then I have another one while we're here on the show. Am I addicted? Probably.
I hear a lot of people say that they don't like coffee. So I would go the opposite, and I would say it surprises me more when I hear someone say they don't drink alcohol. It really does, because entertainment, bars, restaurants, there's a bar in every restaurant now. So I'm going to disagree with you on that one. And I'll say it surprises me more when somebody says they don't drink the alcohol. What do you think? 71307. Spur Daddy says Diesel is killing Cole today. Thanks, Spur Daddy.
Stop.
Come on, man.
You're killing him.
Give me a chance at this thing. He may be up 2-0, but he's not going to go up 3-0. There is no way, because it is time for
Final round. Fight.
All right, it's a Saturday night. Your favorite team is playing, Diesel, in town. Okay, let's pretend you live in a big city. You live in a big sports market.
You live
but
in Atlanta. You live in Charlotte. You live in D.C.
The problem here is your favorite band is also playing in town. This does not surprise me where you're going on this, because you're a music head. Yeah. You're a music guy. Who are you going to choose between?
Well, if we're under the assumption here that your favorite team is the out-of-town team, because it's easy to say, well, if it's the home team, you got more games. But the answer, Cole, is it's your favorite band.
No.
Yeah, it's your favorite band. Look, you can catch the replay on television. They don't put replays of concerts on TV. Your favorite band only comes around maybe once every 2 or 3 years. And if it's a sports team, you got an opportunity next year for them to come back around. I don't want to miss either one of these, Cole, but I ain't missing my favorite band coming through town.
Get out of here. Get out. Leave.
I understand we're on a sports station, and I'm probably going to lose this one because of that, but I'm just being real with you.
No way in you know what sports team in town. You're definitely skipping the band. You can look them up on YouTube.
Who's your favorite band, Cole?
My favorite band.
Top of your head, quickly.
Oh, see,
Leonard Skinner?
Oh, it has to be.
Shania
Does it have to be
Twain?
rock or open to anything?
Shania Twain?
No. I can't give you one off the top of my head. I'll have to think about that.
Bengals.
No, it's not going to be
Go-Go's.
rock and roll. It's not going to be rock. It's going to be country, because that's all I listen to.
Mannheim Steamroller.
No.
Trans-Siberian Orchestra.
Let me get back to you on that, because that's tough.
Okay,
My
see,
favorite artists
let's say
are
it's
singular
Luke Bryan.
artists.
Let's just say it's Luke Bryan. I don't know who your favorite. Luke Bryan is coming to Charlotte. So are the Cowboys.
That's no question. Cowboys.
What?
All day.
Come on.
Come
dude.
on. I'm not going to see as much as I love. Let's say for example, George Strait, his last tour that he just did, the Cowboy Rides Home, whatever his last tour was. As big as a George Strait fan as I am.
Okay.
If the Cowboys were in town the same weekend, it wouldn't even be a question. It wouldn't be a question.
You have such a love-hate relationship with the Cowboys, yet you're so addicted to
I
them
am.
that you'll go
I
and
am.
sign yourself up for something that makes you miserable instead of going to see something that you know is going to bring you
You're
joy.
right. You're right. I'm not saying it's healthy. I'm
is
not saying it's healthy, but you are
That is
right.
Twisted.
All right. If you want to start submitting 5 o'clock fights, you can do so. Here's how.
What do you want Diesel and Co Bryson to fight about next?
If you've got an ass, I'll kick it.
Submit your topics to Diesel at thefanupstate.com. Subject line, fight on the Fan Upstate.
Diesel Fat Paid on the text line says, Diesel easy 3-0. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? What are you doing? Paying the Tolos off? Are you paying them off? Are
Man,
you paying them?
I'm sitting here counting my money, my friend.
Let's see.
3-0.
Madcraft on the stream goes Cole round 2. What about Shane? Shane says round 1 Diesel. He didn't even have to defend his point. What's the breadstick hate? Come on.
I think both of us had one that we assumed we were going to lose.
Yeah, I think so.
In this one. I mean, we're on a sports station.
That's true.
I assume I'm going to lose when I say my favorite band.
Round 2, Shane says goes to Cole. He don't drink coffee. Blame it on the alcohol. Round 3 says Cole, I love sports too much, so at least Shane gives me the win. Trey?
Yeah, but Shane, you misunderstood here. You told us what you don't consume, right? That's not the question. The question is not what do you not consume. It's what shocks you when people don't do it.
Yeah,
it just doesn't shock you that when people don't drink because you don't drink coffee. Okay.
JD,
what do you do in the morning? Do you put a penny in a light socket? Do you do a little bump of something else? How do you get going in the morning if you don't have coffee?
I've always, you know me, I'm super ADHD as it is. I've always been told everywhere, I've worked or been, I'm one of those rare people, Diesel, that don't need coffee. I'm always I don't know if it's because my I'm always wired. I'm always sporadic, I'm always ready to go. Maybe I drink too many energy drinks. I don't know if that has anything to do with it or not, but
I weep for your liver.
I don't drink coffee. Let's see. If I told you in a 7-day span how many cups of coffee I drank, it'd be 1, maybe 2.
Yeah, 7-day span. I'm easily at 21.
Wow.
21 cups of coffee a week.
Jordan Spieth just sank one right in the middle of the freaking lake. Are you kidding me? That was incredible. By the way,
I love watching pros, man, because they make horrible shots.
Look at this, Diesel. Look. Oh, we're watching the Wells Fargo.
He went off the rock wall.
Oh, he hit the wall?
Yeah, he went off the rock wall. So he caught just the very, very edge of the fringe at a pond. So there's not a sandy or muddy beach at this pond. There's a rock wall. He doinked it off the rock wall. I mean, that's just it's a bad shot. B, it's really bad luck because that thing hits a quarter inch to the other side and it's going back into the fairway.
Spur Daddy says Diesel with a clean sweep today.
Thank you, Spur.
Your favorite team always comes around more than your favorite band. Oh my gosh, Spur Daddy, how much are you getting paid by Diesel right now? But just to give you a little update on the Wells Fargo, they just went to commercial, Diesel, but Xander Schauffele is leading by, I believe it was 6 last I looked. We've been watching it during the show. We've had it on our TV.
That means Scotty Scheffler's not playing in this one.
He's not playing in this one.
Well, there you go.
No.
That's the only reason why he's not winning.
Rory's not playing bad. Spieth's not playing bad either. Spieth is a little ways back, but Rory.
Would you call Rory? This is a stretch here, okay?
Yeah.
Would you call Rory's the back end of his career a little bit of a disappointment? I mean, a lot of people want Rory to be the face of golf and to be that elite golfer, right?
I think it's a fair point.
Yeah. He seems like he has the ability to be a star, a mega star.
Sure.
As far as his personality and his ability to hold a press conference
and his skill,
but his performance is just it's off.
I think it's just been inconsistent,
Yeah.
I think it's been inconsistent, but what's crazy is when he's at the top of his game, there's nobody better. I mean, Rory at the top is phenomenal. So no,
we like the funny accent. We like the fact that he's defended the PGA so hard.
He has. No, he definitely has. And listen, he's a guy that I think that a lot of people do look at as the face of golf, but I wouldn't think the majority looks at him as the face of golf because
we want him to be the spokesman and the best player in golf. And as of now, he's just the spokesman.
And I think a lot of it has to do with, we talk about Scheffler being the same way.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these guys and yesterday we talked about this with Mike Trout, with Bob Nightingale. A lot of these guys want to take the back seat. A lot of these guys don't want to be in the spotlight.
It's easy to go out there and be great and make a lot of money and just stay away from the cameras because, Cole, we do it. We're in the public sphere also, not nearly to the degree that they are.
Sure.
But you make a little promo and Rob Brown can't resist but trying to come and smack you around a little bit. Now we clap back. We put him in his place.
Yeah.
As we do here on this show. But you can't avoid the idiots in the comment section. And some guys are really good at either completely ignoring it. Others, they stay away from it.
Hey, speaking of comment section.
Did you see this text here that says fat paid diesel easy 3-0?
I did see that.
Yeah.
I read that on the air. I read it.
No,
I read it. I read it on the air.
I know you did. I just wanted to say it again.
What did Brian? Brian says, fan, Cole is definitely not a normal human being. Yeah, Brian, you're exactly right. Exactly right. Hey, Diesel, speaking of the comment section, while I was during, I think it was this last break or 2 breaks ago, while I was running down the hall during the last break is what I was trying to say. I looked at our Facebook page to see how many comments were on that post I posted today. And you're going to tell the audience what's coming up next because I'm going to get to this phone call. But speaking of comment section, boy, do we have some comments to get to.
Yeah, Cole,
this is going to be good.
You went right at the South Carolina Gamecock fans. You asked the question, if you could have a beer with Beamer, what is the one thing you'd tell him heading into his 4th season? That'll be on the other side here on the Fan Upstate. It's Wire to Wire right here on the Fan Upstate, the hottest, newest show in the afternoons here, covering Clemson, South Carolina, Carolina Panthers, Falcons, everything that you care about, NASCAR as well. We had a fantastic conversation earlier in the show with Shane Connuck of the Charlotte Observer, who covers NASCAR. You can hear that interview replayed at 6 o'clock if you missed it, especially ahead of the big race this weekend in Darlington. That's going to be absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Cole, you managed to do it again. You managed to light up the Gamecock fan base, which I'll be real with you, Cole, is
pretty easy.
It's pretty easy.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to light up the Gamecock fan base. You know why? Because I don't know why it is, they are so very different from Clemson fans in this aspect, as they are very thin-skinned. Gamecock fans are extremely
don't say that
thin-skinned. Anything and everything you say about South Carolina, what is he saying? Does he offer us insults? The angry birds have come after you again. What's going on this time?
So I put on Facebook, and I'm going to get to JD in just a second on the Renewal by Anderson fan phone, but I put on Facebook today, 5 hours ago. I said, Carolina fans, if you could have a beer with Beamer or a meal or a coffee, whatever you choose, what is the one thing you would tell him heading into his 4th season as head coach? On Twitter, on Facebook, we got a ton of replies. We'll get to them. You go ahead and start getting your thoughts in, your replies in now. 71307. Start your text with the word fan. You can also sound off on the Renewal by Anderson fan phone if you are a Gamecock fan going into the 4th season as head coach. If you had a beer with Beamer, what would you tell Beamer? Let's go to the phone lines. JD's been on hold. JD, what would you tell Beamer going into his 4th season?
Well, actually, hey, I was actually calling to give you an update from out here in the field in Simpsonville, South Carolina, real quick if I could. I got myself and the boys, we were out here. I can confirm officially that the Goodyear blimp has indeed circled by. Trip, who was driving that blimp? Can you tell him?
I don't.
Wasn't it Diesel?
Mm-hmm.
You said Diesel was driving it? Yeah. Did y'all see the Goodyear blimp, guys? Can we say yeah? Get excited. Yeah, we saw the Goodyear blimp. Right? Right. All right. Well, guys, that's Strip and Paxton. They just wanted to confirm that there is indeed the Goodyear blimp flying around. Of course, thank you for taking my call. But yeah, since you asked, I'll reiterate something I've said before about Shane Beamer. He might need to enter the Lamont Paris School of Coaching. And before he does that, I need him to write an essay saying that I will not attack JV radio stations from the upstate when they report something that could possibly be true for no reason. He also needs to write that I will not kick coolers and cry in press conferences. And man, instead of being creative on special teams, for the love of God, can we just put that creativeness into our offense? I mean, one way or another, let's just be creative on offense and forget, I'm sure they waste as much time in practicing these retarded special teams play to get a defensive player a touchdown. Hey, train the defensive player to get a fumble and a fumble recovery or an interception and score a touchdown if they want to score a touchdown. We don't need to give it to them on special teams. Thanks for taking my call. Y'all have a good one.
Thanks, JD. The question is, South Carolina fans, again, we know a lot of Clemson fans will throw some shade this way, Diesel, but for South Carolina fans, if you had a beer, a coffee, a meal with Beamer going into his 4th season, you just got to sit down with him, kick your feet up, and say, look, coach, here's what I think. What would you say? Let us know. So many ways to get in touch with the show, Diesel. Do you think these comments that I'm going to read are going to be positive or negative?
Oh, I am going to say 100% negative. Not a lot of people are going to have, unless they're just that certain type of Gamecock fan, they're not going to have a lot of positive things to say right now.
Unless it's Ray Tanner commenting. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Text your thoughts in 71307 on Facebook. Chandler says, I'd tell him to offer the Burns running back Trey Segura before it's too late. Late, rather. JD on Facebook says, don't kick coolers. Kevin on Facebook says, don't put too much pressure on yourself. No one has really won anything here. That's the best one yet. It had 6 laugh reactions. Again, Kevin says, don't put too much pressure on yourself. No one has really ever won anything here. I love the honesty.
I love it.
I love it.
Another Kevin says, pay whatever you need in NIL to win the Natty. Kevin, do you believe that South Carolina fans not have the money? Because I'm sure they've got, there's a lot of rich donors in the South Carolina fan base.
Sure.
Do you think they have even remotely the same NIL collective that Georgia or Florida State? I'm just thinking of the teams that do really well in the transfer portal, like the deep pockets that those teams have.
Not yet.
Not yet. I don't think you have it. Hey, winning helps. Florida State hadn't been winning for a while, but they remember what it's like to win, so it's easier to mobilize that fan base. Georgia already knows what it's like to win. It's easy to get people to donate money when times are great and everybody's feeling really good about the program. You know, it's easy to get money out of people's pockets at that point. But, man, there's a lot of skeptical Gamecock fans who are saying things like, do I really want to spend my money on trying to get the running back who's going to be with us for a year and then take off? We just saw what happened with Juice Wells. I don't know, man. You'll be able to get some money, but maybe not a ton.
Another Kevin, the third Kevin in the comments says, we're all a fan of love, but we're a bigger fan of winning. That one's good. You know how he does they have that theme every year, the love, that was their word of the year. We're all a fan of love, but we're a bigger fan of winning. Some good ones so far. Matt says, I would tell him he sucks at staff talent evaluation. That one got some pushback, as you could imagine.
David Bell, you're up to your typical BS again. See, this is how you know, Cole, that you've arrived, that you've got a very strong fan base.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the Fan Upstate's fan base, the Tolos, who get into the comment section and they go after each other.
Sure.
And David apparently has some history here with Matt, and they're going back and forth at each other. I love this. I love it. That's my favorite thing is when Tolos go back and forth at each other in the comments.
We have the text line lighting up as well. 71307. Start your text with the word fan. The question, if you just tuned in, is if you could sit down and have a coffee or a beer or a meal with Coach Shane Beamer, Carolina fans, what's the one thing you would tell him heading into his 7th season? Melinda says, I'd tell him to get his dad out of retirement, let him coach special teams.
I'd tell him to update his resume.
You tell him that?
Yeah. Keep it updated.
Because he's going to need it?
Somebody's going to hire you.
Are you saying he needs to update it because he's going to be using that resume soon?
Yeah, I do. I know that I've predicted on this channel, or on the station before, that Shane Beamer, his tenure in Columbia as the head coach, would probably not run past, I think, 2026.
Okay. On Twitter, Yo-Yo says, please quit crying so much, is what he would tell Shane Beamer. You need to get a handle on your emotions. That's Gamecock fans. It's not me saying that. That's Gamecock fans saying that. On the text line, Diesel, one texter says, Coach Beamer, what school will you be coaching after South Carolina, says Trey in Kentucky. Y'all are terrible. You know what? Y'all are supposed to be kind.
Coach, after this, are you going to take a staff position or a head coach in the G5?
Jeez. Y'all are terrible. Jay Schmo says, Beamer, have we thought about winning this year? Tons of positivity, as we imagined, right? Lefty Tiger, Diesel. I don't know if that's a South Carolina fan. Lefty Tiger. Lefty Tiger says, I would ask him why his mouth looks too small for his face. He looks ridiculous when he talks. Again, don't think that one came from a Gamecock. Do you?
Lefty,
do you?
Come on, man. Making fun of somebody's physical deformation. That's not right. That's not right. He can't help it.
Corn Chip, Tolo Corn Chip on the text line. I love the name, by the way. And you Corn Chip, did the right thing. You put Tolo in your name.
Yeah.
You're doing it right. Tolo Corn Chip says, that checks out. I just saw, I guess, the support truck for the blimp driving down 85. Sorry, that was a blimp text. We've got two things going on at once.
Hey, Tolos, tell us where you're watching from. Tell us where you're listening from. Text in 71307. Start your text with keyword fan or jump in the stream and comment. Where are you watching us from?
I like this one. JD says he doesn't look ridiculous when he talks because of his mouth. It's because of what he says. You know, Diesel, what's interesting is I have a lot of fans, a lot of friends who are Clemson fans and South Carolina fans. Some of my closest friends are Gamecock fans. Mm-hmm. And you know, what's surprising is there is an overwhelming majority of friends of mine, personal friends, who are diehard Gamecock fans. Former Gamecock club members, used to serve on the board. And there is an overwhelming majority of people who are just like sick of what he says. Like they just don't like what he says. The South Carolina fans I talk to
buy it as real. They think it's phony. They think it's fake.
Maybe,
you know?
maybe.
I mean, look, what do people say about Dabo Swinney also? That he's phony, that he's fake, that they don't believe it, that it's all self-serving. They say the same things about him. I mean, there's a lot of things that Shane Beamer has done with that program, good and bad, that mirror what Dabo has done at Clemson. And South Carolina seems to be going things, especially in the NIL and portal sense, going about things very differently from the way Dabo does. We talked about it in the second segment of the show today. Not saying that either one is particularly the right way, but we're seeing which one is more effective, at least in this state.
So I just think the biggest difference, before we get back to the text line, I think the biggest difference in what you said with Dabo and Beamer, because they are similar. I agree with you.
I think their personalities are very much alike. I think Beamer's, he's just got that little, he's got that younger guy energy.
I think the biggest difference is Dabo, within a few years, made home run hires. Like Dabo didn't make good hires. He got Chad Morris, right? And then he got really fortunate with Tony Elliott. Then he got Brent Venables. Dabo did not make good hires. Dabo made home run hires. So guess what he was able to do, Diesel? He was able to win. He was able to start winning. And that's the difference. Like Beamer has to start making some home run hires. Well, Mike Furry, Sean Elliott, will those turn out to be home run hires? Hopefully so. Maybe so. But he's got to start making some good hires. Texter says, I'd ask him if Kirby Smart is his daddy.
I would say, Cole, to your point there, I would tell Shane Beamer, hire based on who is the best candidate, not hire based on who you've worked with before and who you think is going to give you an opportunity to say, welcome home. Isn't it great that we got this guy back? Doesn't it show how much, we've changed and grown as a program? Go out there and get who in your mind is the best and brightest mind for the position.
You know why I think a lot of people have a problem with him? I really think, Diesel, that there's a big difference in what we're talking about. And I know this sounds silly and simple, but guess who was not on Twitter and still is not on Twitter during that build? Dabo Swinney. We did not see Dabo having to go out and defend his program and build his program up through tweets. So welcome home, or wow, just got the best news. We didn't see that, right? We saw Dabo stay off social media and build a program and take it to the pinnacle of success.
Yeah.
To me, again, Diesel, that's perception. But what is perception? We say all the time, perception's reality. Shane's having to build his program up through social media and defend himself. And he's acting like, to me, it's like it's the little brother that's having to go up to mom and say, well, Mom, I cleaned my room too.
I would say at that point, let the social media team handle the social media for your program. You stay the hell away from it.
I think there's advantages and disadvantages, right? I mean, I think there's pros and cons because you want to be able to see your players, right?
It's like
what they're saying.
If it's working, people think you're a
That's
genius
right.
at it and you're brilliant. If it's not working, they'll criticize and say that's the reason you're unsuccessful.
It's true. That's true. And that's what I'm doing. I'll be honest. That is what I'm doing. And I'm not saying Beamer's unsuccessful because he's on Twitter too much, but the perception of it is he's on Twitter too much, right? Because he's on Twitter defending himself with radio stations and Phil Kornblut and having to go on and talk about getting this guy and Nick Saban and Dabo Swinney. They weren't on Twitter.
And tell, if you're going to make a statement instead of a question, which is the way this whole thing was phrased, I'd say, Shane, you care too much about what people think about you.
You know what? I would completely agree. And again, I like Shane Beamer, and I know
So
people
do I.
listening aren't gonna hear me. You know, they're gonna make their perception. Oh, Cole hates Beamer, right? Cole's a tater. I'm just telling you like it is. I do think he gets caught up too much on Twitter in terms of trying to, like you said, defend himself and make him. I got to be the right guy. Take the high road, man, and let it go. Spurrier, Saban, and Dabo didn't do that, and look. It's perception. It really is.
And maybe it's just an age thing. They all came from an era when that wasn't
True.
the end all.
That's
be
true.
all. What people have said about you in the past 24 hours on social media isn't where those guys derive their self-worth. And that's a big problem among people who grew up entirely on social media. Cole, I feel lucky, man. I'm turning 40 here in a couple weeks. I feel lucky that I grew up in a world pre-internet. Like, I didn't have social media. Facebook wasn't a thing until I was in college, and you couldn't be on social media if you didn't have a .edu email address, right?
Yeah. And MySpace.
So, I remember what it was like to not have social media run my life. And I think that makes me a more well-adjusted individual. Shane Beamer is, 45, 44 years old, something like
44,
that. So
45.
He grew up in the same era, right? He's just a couple years older than me. So he is way more successful than I am. But you would think that somebody who came from that era when it wasn't where you derived your self-worth, that he would be have a better grip on how to ignore it.
Texter from the 297 says, I personally enjoy Shane's attitude, and with a schedule as hard as we have, it doesn't make it easy. But I'll sit here and continue to watch Clemson's decline. I get it, Texter. I understand. Not everybody feels the same way. I understand that some people are going to like Shane Beamer's attitude. Some are going to hate it. So, hey, newsflash, some think I suck on the radio. Some think Diesel sucks on the radio. Some think we're the greatest thing since sliced bread. Everybody's going to have a different opinion, but it's interesting that the overwhelming majority of Gamecock fans will tell you, yeah, we just don't really like the way. Like, I'll go to my friend's house, Diesel, who are Gamecock fans during football, watch the games, and when they watch the post-game press conference with Shane Beamer, they're like sick. They're like, I've heard enough of this. I had one, hey, true story, this morning, South Carolina friend of mine called me on the phone as I talked to my Clemson and South Carolina fans. I don't want you to think I'm being biased. Friend of mine this morning, and I won't say his name, said to me, you know why I'm not going to the Gamecock Club meeting Tuesday? And I said, why not? The one in Spartanburg, by the way, that you and I will be at. He said, if I go, I'm worried that I'll have a few too many drinks and say something to Beamer I shouldn't.
At least he's honest.
He's honest, isn't he?
At least he's honest. And Cole, it feels like we're at a tipping point, right?
Yeah.
With Beamer and the fan attitude with him. After this season, things are going to change dramatically in either direction.
Xander Schauffele still leads up in Charlotte at the Wells Fargo Championship. I believe this is the last year it's Wells Fargo. I think it's going to be a new sponsor next year. Coming up next, Diesel, Mike Tyson. He's preparing for his fight versus Jake Paul in a very weird way. Tiger Woods prepared for the Masters in a unique way, right? This one, similar, but different. All right, coming up next, I'll tell you what he's doing, and I'll ask you, would you go to these lengths to do what Tyson's trying to do? He's Diesel, I'm Cole Bryson, and this is The Fan Upstate. All right. I do not know, Diesel, if I could box. I do not know if I had an athletic trainer.
You don't have the reach for boxing.
Or the money, or the stamina, or the height, the athleticism. I mean, make a list, Diesel. Let's just make a list.
You don't have the jaw for it.
While we're at it. All right. So if I had a trainer and the trainer said to me, hey, in order to prepare for this fight, I need you on this raw meat diet. Okay? I could not do it. Diesel, if you were a millionaire, if you were a professional boxer, that was your profession, and they said, well, you got to eat raw meat. 20 days, 30 days, 60 days, whatever it is. Could you do it?
Hell no. Hell no. Like, there's only 2 types of raw meat that I've ever consumed, Cole, on purpose. I've had, at a very nice restaurant here in Greenville, raw bison.
Okay.
It's very, very thin, but it's cured. It's different. Like, it's not cooked, but it's cured.
Okay.
Delicious. Delicious.
Saskatoon's?
No, it was the Grand Bohemian Hotel.
Oh, wow.
They have great bison.
Big
bison
money.
carpaccio.
Okay.
I've only been there once. And then sushi.
Okay.
Like, I'll eat sushi. It's not my favorite thing in the world, but I'll eat sushi every now and again. I get more cooked things than I get raw things. But what Mike Tyson says he's doing to prepare for the Jake Paul fight, Cole, should churn a lot of people's stomachs.
It's nasty. You have the audio, or you want me to play it?
I have the audio.
All right, let's hear it whenever you get that pulled up.
From Mike.
Do you look like 20 years old? What the hell? What are you eating? Raw meat. Seriously, Mike, you're eating raw meat. Are you swallowing it, or remember you used to spit that stuff out? I'm gonna have to eat it now because my opponent's gonna be raw meat. That's right.
He's taking shots.
I'm eating raw meat because Jake Paul is going to be raw meat.
He's taking shots,
bro.
I like it though.
Mike,
taking the shots. I just don't like the raw meat
Mike,
part.
you know you can just throw it in a pan for like.
What advantage does that give you? Eating it raw versus medium rare.
Do we think that Mike's being like literal here? Do we think Mike knows what the word literal means?
That's what I don't know. I don't know.
Like, I remember watching Rocky as a kid, thinking how gross it was that somebody's drinking raw eggs.
Oh, and I still think that's disgusting.
That's nasty.
I still do think that's disgusting.
I understand. Like, what protein advantage, what caloric uptake advantage is there to consuming it raw versus cooking it? I mean, cooking it, you reduce the fat, right? Like you render some of the fat out of what it is you're eating. So the raw doesn't make any sense.
I just want to know the advantage.
Maybe it's just to make yourself tough.
I couldn't do it. Let us know on the text line. Could you do it?
If you needed to lose weight rapidly, though, you could eat some raw food and make yourself sick. Yourself tapeworm.
That's disgusting. If you were on what Mike Tyson's having to do, could you eat raw meat? I could not do it. Real quick, before we hit a break, Brad wants to chime in on our earlier baseball conversation. What's up, Brad?
Yeah, man. I know y'all been talking about it a lot this week, and I think people need to lay off Kingston. Like, it is ridiculous. He's got a top 20 team. He's got to play a top 25 team every weekend. Like, he's right there where he needs to be in the host conversation. You know, people really need to lay off. Like, all it takes is one good weekend, and them boys are going to be ready to roll into Omaha. So as everybody goes into the weekend, they can ignore last night because they're going to bounce back, and they're going to win 11 straight. You can mark it down right now, and then Kingston will be praised. And all you ACC homers out there, your conference sucks.
Thanks, Brad.
Thanks for the phone call.
Best one of the day so far.
He's
Leaderboard.
Well, he's wrong about the 11 straight.
It doesn't matter.
He's not wrong about. He's not wrong about laying off. I mean, look, the Gamecock fan base is a very fair weather fan base. If you're winning, they love you. If you're not winning, they hate you. Even when you don't have a marked success in a particular sport.
That's fantastic.
Going back to that fight, though, Cole, a lot of people still don't know when it is. I know it's when it's a media spectacle like this, sometimes you ignore the details. The fight
July or no?
July 20th, AT&T Stadium in Dallas. Jera World is hosting the fight. Mike Tyson is 50-6 with 44 KOs.
Let's go.
Jake Paul is 9-1 with 6 KOs.
Are you gonna watch?
I
will.
I'll go somewhere that's showing it. I'm not spending my money on this. The question is, Cole, do you believe this is actually a legitimate fight, or is this more of like a Rocky versus Thunderlips, the Ultimate Male?
Wait a minute.
exhibition?
It costs?
I'm sure it does. It's got to be on pay-per-view. Like, there's no way this is on cable.
I thought it was on. Well, it's on Netflix, so
Is
Netflix
it?
does cost.
Oh.
Right? Am I just dreaming that up?
Oh.
Please tell me if I'm wrong, texters.
Hey,
Tolos.
that's smart. That's smart. That's one place that I think MMA is really screwed up.
Maybe
maybe on pay-per-view.
Let me make sure though. Let me fact check that. Maybe
No.
I'm making it up.
If it's accessible, I'll watch it at home. If it's inaccessible, I'll go somewhere to watch it because I do want to see this. I do want to see Mike Tyson take his head off.
If you missed our interview with Shane Connuck earlier in the show, we'll have it for you next.
It's your last chance to save on the perfect gift at Macy's Mother's Day sale. Use your coupon or Macy's card and take 25% off great gift ideas. Or shop specials like 30 to 65% off fine jewelry and 30 to 40% off pajamas from Charter Club and more. Plus fun beauty and fragrance gift sets from Lancome, Coach, Carolina Herrera, and more. Be proud today at Macy's Mother's Day sale. Savings on regular sale and clearance prices, exclusions apply.
Without the ones like you who work tirelessly to keep things running, everything would simply stop. Hospitals, factories, schools, and power outlets, they all depend on you. No matter the weather, emergency, or time of day, you're the ones who get it done. At Granger, we're here for you with professional grade industrial supplies. Real-time product availability and fast delivery.
Every single Friday at this time, we talk to Shane Connuck of the Charlotte Observer.
From the fields to the courts, and the gridiron to the tracks.
Electrifying sports talk from start to finish.
You're going wire to wire.
With Diesel and Cole Bryson.
On the Fan Upstate.
Every single Friday at this time, we talk to Shane Connuck of the Charlotte Observer to talk a little NASCAR. And before we get into Shane, this coming Sunday at Darlington, I want to go back to last week at Kansas to what was a very intriguing finish. Kyle Larson obviously gets the win, but what was your biggest takeaway from the race this past week at Kansas, Shane?
NASCAR is here, and this year just keeps on getting better. We've had a lot of close races in general. Then you have closest races. We had the closest finish that the NASCAR Cup Series has ever seen this past weekend. That's the biggest takeaway. Kyle Larson, the one who gets the win, really is one of the best drivers on the planet.
Shane Connuck joins us here on Wire to Wire. He's Cole Bryson. My name is Diesel. Shane, as we are going to one of the most legendary tracks on the NASCAR circuit this weekend, and you compare that to the trend in NASCAR viewership and attendance. I want to know, do you have any knowledge or insights on, the differences in attendance at the newer tracks, the non-traditional locations versus these legacy tracks? I mean, you would think the legacy tracks, the Deep South tracks, places where NASCAR is still its strongest, do they see a higher percentage of attendance there, or is that something where I'm completely off base?
They do, but something that you're seeing now is NASCAR trying to tap into new markets, but also not overdoing it. And something that we've seen over the last 30 years or so has been certain markets starting to get two races, a race during the beginning of the season and then one later, like Darlington has. And then you start to see attendance kind of split. And then when tracks like Dover only host one race, that brings so much more attention and crowds to that one time it hosts something every year. Darlington, though, the Southern 500 in the playoffs usually, this year it's going to be the end of the regular season, is a crown jewel, the Southern 500. But this week's race in the spring, obviously they're doing the whole throwback weekend. I think that we're going to see a similar big Darlington crowd and a great race to follow it.
Shane, do you ever remember a time, I want to go back to that finish that you referenced last Sunday. Do you remember a time that NASCAR has seen a reaction, not only by the announcers on TV, the announcers on radio, but even the announcers even the pit team of Buescher? For the first 15 seconds after that race completed, everyone thought that Buescher was the winner until 10, 15 seconds later, it was determined that Kyle Larson won. I thought that reaction, even on the radio call, just the 10 to 12, 15 seconds of really people just having it totally wrong was something that I really haven't heard before.
That seems to be the reaction from a lot of people who have been around the sport that long, that there was never a time that it actually took about 3/4 of the way getting across the track, like you said, about 15 seconds until we were actually able to determine with confidence that Kyle Larson was indeed the winner. However, I noticed that just about 3 months ago, down at Atlanta Motor Speedway, 3 cars appeared to come across that finish line at pretty much the same time. And all of us right there in the media center was basically like, who was it? It could have been Kyle Busch. It could have been Ryan Blaney. And right away on the scoring monitor flashed up 99. And the reason why we all, Daniel Suarez won, and he indeed was the winner, because that was what it said right away. This time it said that Buescher, the 17, was the winner right away. And it took looking at the photo to determine that Larson had won it. And so that shows you just how close it was, but also not to mention really how close that Atlanta race was just a short time ago as well.
Shane, I understand that the official start-finish line at every NASCAR track is an invisible line created by a high-speed camera. But at first, there was a lot of reaction from the public about there being 2 different finish lines there at Kansas. It looked like maybe there was an old finish line that was painted on the track with a brand new one painted over top of it. And it leads to confusion. Has there been any explanation, or to your mind, is there going to be any follow-up from NASCAR about the quote-unquote different ghost finish lines there at Kansas?
There's been a lot of talk about that, like you said, and that's why it's a lot of emphasis on the way the finish lines are painted. I think in general, that's going to be something that people just pay a lot more attention to. Because honestly, being at the tracks is something I noticed. You look at that finish line, and just being a spectator at a sporting event, everything feels that official. But you really look at the line, it's kind of on a hill, obviously, because of the banking. And it's always just how somebody painted it. And because of that, now we've learned that NASCAR, like you said, it's kind of an invisible line, essentially, on a monitor. And so what NASCAR has done a lot this week, some spokespeople have posted on social media, interacting back with fans about this and showing the images that they use and that they've actually always used to determine the winners of races and with these monitors, and how they always kind of had a line that was in an exact spot that wasn't necessarily exactly what was painted, and that with these pictures that they have, it displays it in a way that it's easy to tell really which car, like it's a lot clearer than just looking at a photo that you take with a camera in the moment. It's a whole detailed system with all timing to really determine the exact seconds of who actually won.
You can follow him on Twitter. We have him on every single Friday. We so much appreciate him coming on every Friday. But Shane Connuck with the Charlotte Observer, you can follow him on Twitter at Shane_Connuck. That's Connuck. Shane, when you saw that finish that we talked about, was the first thing that you thought about through the brain, through the mind of Shane Connuck was, man, Cole asked me the very last question on Friday, would a Ford win? And you are 0.001 second away from being wrong. But guess what? You were right.
And I knew in that moment they were saying Chris Buescher on the TV broadcast, and then I turn up the volume on MRN, and they're number 17, Chris Buescher has won the race. The Ford has won for the first time. And I, in the moment, was obviously, if you notice in the end, Kyle Larson's car clearly got a lot faster than him when they went past the checkered. So it looked like if you didn't see exactly where the finish line was, as if they came across so quickly that Larson just blew by him. But because of that, I felt like Larson had just passed him just before, and obviously it came down to that photo. So in the moment, I was saying Larson right away, and then it took everybody else a good 10, 15 seconds to realize that we were still without a Ford win.
Shane Connuck joins us here on Wire to Wire. He's Cole Bryson. I'm Diesel. You got questions for Shane, burning NASCAR questions? Get it to us on the text line 71307. Start your text with keyword fan or drop it in the chat on the stream. Shane, can you give me a driver or two that hasn't won this season who you believe is right there on the edge, who's trending in the right direction, just needs maybe one or two breaks to go his way? And of those, are any of them a real threat to win this weekend at Darlington?
Well, Martin Truex Jr. still hasn't won. And obviously he is a threat every race. And last year actually won the regular season. But this year, just Toyota's wins usually end up with Denny Hamlin getting into victory lane more often than not. And at this point, Truex just hasn't been able to get to the top. So I think that it's a matter of time before we see him. And that can especially happen at a track like Darlington. And then other than that, I want to mention Bubba Wallace here, because Bubba this year has been running particularly well, especially a little earlier in the season, and had several top fives, top tens early on. Hasn't won still since in a while now, dating back to that Kansas win. And then last year in the playoffs for the first time in his career, just running a lot better. And some of these tracks that kind of favor Toyota drivers, I think it's a matter of time before the 23 car gets back to victory lane as well.
Shane, I like what you said there with Bubba, and I think on the 1.5 miles, it does seem like those are his tracks to win. But what's interesting is it seems like and I know this sounds simple, but for Bubba, it just seems like it's been bad luck. If he's in the hunt, he might have a chance to finish top 10, but it seems as if in 2024 rather, he's had some terrible luck with wrecks, especially as of late.
Definitely, especially with the wrecks, like you said. And Hamlin, I think a lot of last playoffs really got caught up in that a lot too, kind of just trying to almost go too fast. I think it's just the kind of thing that racing comes down to so many things that you have to really, your whole team just has to have so many things perfect over a long period of time. And it does feel like the way he's running, and obviously these 2311 Toyota Camrys are fast, and we've seen that from Tyler Reddick a lot. And obviously, as great as Denny Hamlin, their owner, is. And so I think it's a matter of time before Wallace elevates to what we're seeing Reddick already do.
Shane, I'm going to put you in a tight spot here. Go irrespective of your feelings about the drivers here, okay? Who has the greatest paint scheme ever in NASCAR?
Oh. Well, we're seeing a lot of great ones this weekend, obviously. But I've got to go with I got to go with the old school. I'm going to let you go with this one. Dale Jr. had a car, I think in 2001, that had the MLB All-Star Game logo on it. That is an awesome way to just so simply tie into another sport and get another brand on there. I thought that one was just a random awesome one. But a lot of these old ones, obviously, we're seeing the old Kevin Harvick Budweiser car that was back toward the end of last season was pretty cool. And I think it's interesting how we're seeing Busch as a prominent sponsor back, that Ross Chastain has now, the way that Harvick had it and other drivers in the past had that old Busch or Budweiser logo. So we're gonna see all kinds of those paint schemes this weekend.
I was a big fan, Shane, of the old Bobby Labonte paint scheme. I always liked his. I thought that was a really classy look and just some really good colors. But hey, one thing that Diesel and I talked about on Monday, I want to get your thoughts on this. We joke and we ask you about it every week if this will be the week that Ford wins. But now that this has gone on for so long, not only has Ford not won Sprint, they haven't won Xfinity or Truck. Is there some meat and potatoes? Is there some legs behind this trend that raise cause for concern for Ford, or is this just a rare coincidence in your opinion?
I think it's rare, and like we've talked about, the last couple of years, it feels like while Fords weren't winless early in the year, they were not the dominant or maybe the second dominant car. It was much more Chevys are winning the most races, but Toyota's seemed the fastest, and then Ford's are the odd man out. And then at the end of the season, most of the champions are Ford drivers. So there you go. Ford thinks they're the best. The thing that happened this year was that Ford unveiled a new a new, because obviously it's not really a car because NASCAR makes the chassis, which are the interior of each race car, identical. But with the new Ford Mustang Dark Horse body that was introduced for this year, after last year, where not only Ryan Blaney being the Cup champion and a driver of Team Penske, the biggest Ford team, but also Cole Custer and Ben Rhodes, the Xfinity and Truck Series champions, were also Ford drivers. This year, since they've gone to the new Ford bodies, not like you said, not a single Ford driver in any series has been able to get to victory lane. But I think here's the other part of it. The top Cup Series Ford guys in the past, you've had the Kevin Harvicks of the world being a part of those teams. And now Stewart Haas Racing replaced Harvick with Josh Berry, who's a rookie and hasn't made a whole lot of noise yet this year. So I think that it's also that these Ford teams, especially in the Cup Series, are younger this year. And the only Ford drivers who usually are even going to have a chance to be toward the front are your obviously Blaney and then maybe like we saw this past week, a Chris Buescher. But there just aren't even as many Ford drivers who are as experienced at this point, and the manufacturer switched to a different body that they just haven't been able to figure out yet.
Shane, who do you think gets the win this weekend?
All the shows to be better?
You know, I think it'll be. I haven't made my official pick yet, but I'm leaning with another.
2-sentence answer.
I'm going with another Chase Elliott win.
Ooh.
He has been running very well this year. He has a win already, but he's not just a win once, get in the playoffs kind of guy. And after going winless all of last year, obviously he had his injury, suspension, all of that. Chase Elliott is a star in this sport, and Hendrick Motorsports is a top team, and Chase Elliott's much a part of that as William Byron and Kyle Larson have been.
Shane, great stuff as always. When are you headed down there, man?
Tomorrow morning.
I love it. A little Mother's Day at Darlington. Hey, we appreciate you. Hope you have a great time, and we can't wait to hear all about it next week.
Thanks so much, guys. Can't wait to talk with you guys next week and hope to have a good time down in your state of South Carolina.
That's right. That is Shane Connuck of the Charlotte Observer. Covers NASCAR for them, man. We love having that guy on. And I am jealous, Cole, of somebody whose job it is to follow around NASCAR. Like, this dude is now living his life at and around the tracks.
He is.
What a life, man. What have we done with our lives that we ended up here?
I tell you,
he's out there doing that.
I tell you what helps his case that I don't have. He's a heck of a writer. Okay.
Yeah. Well, that helps. Yeah.
Cole's not. So listen, I try my best. I've never had any training in writing. Shane's a fantastic writer. He doesn't just. The crazy thing is, Diesel. He doesn't just do NASCAR. He covers Hornets.
Yep.
High school in Charlotte. I'm on Twitter, follow him all the time. He's at lacrosse games, high school baseball games. He's everywhere. He is he's getting it, man.
Yeah, you got to be relentless if you're a writer. And hey, how many times, Cole, maybe we shouldn't wish that we were in the print media world, because we all know the fate of a lot of print media these days.
Sure. Hopefully not for a company as big as the Observer. Hopefully not. We wouldn't wish that on Shane, but
yeah, you would think, but again, I'm not saying there's anything going on with the Charlotte Observer. I'm just saying print media in general has been in a tough spot over the past couple of years. But a fantastic conversation with Shane.
Some breaking news during that conversation. Mike Budenholzer is closing in on a deal to become the next Suns coach, and a formal agreement is expected to be in place soon, reports Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN.
You're more of an NBA guy than I am, Cole. Do you feel like this is just another retread coach situation, or do you think this is actually a quality hire?
Well, I think the last guy they had in Frank Vogel was the retread. I think Vogel was a one-year piece to get them to where they wanted to be and be able to go get a guy. Listen, the reality of it is Mike Budenholzer should have never been fired from Milwaukee. Mike Budenholzer, I don't know why we live in a world where you win a title and you get fired, but Mike Budenholzer won a title, and the Bucks haven't sniffed one since. So he's a heck of a coach. He's a great quality coach. And the reality of it is, Diesel, in this situation, they should not in Phoenix have to have a coach. When you have Kevin Durant and Devin Booker and the addition of Bradley Beal, when you have guys like that on the same team, you shouldn't need a coach. You have two of the best players in the world on the same team. You don't have any depth. That's the problem.
How have we not seen to this point, Cole, a team like Milwaukee, and I'm thinking specifically about their situation. They fire Budenholzer. They hire Doc Rivers. He sucks in Milwaukee. I mean, is it a pride thing? Why have we not seen a team say, you know what, we're going to throw a ton of money and see if we can get our old coach back?
Well, I think it's a pride issue, I would assume.
You think it's pride with the coaches, and then it's a we don't want to be seen as weak or admit that we're wrong for the organization?
Milwaukee's been wrong since they fired Mike Budenholzer. They had two more coaches before they even had Doc.
Yeah.
A different coach in 23, a different coach in 22, and then you have Doc Rivers. They've had three coaches since Mike Budenholzer, and he won NBA Coach of the Year. He was voted NBA Coach of the Year and won a championship.
I look at situations, and situation really, really matters, right? You could be a really good coach and be in a bad situation and not be successful. But I would think, Cole, depending on how much of the organization is still in place in Milwaukee from Budenholzer's tenure when he was successful, if you could get back there and still have 3 or 4 players that you had then, you still have some of the same upper management staff that you had then, you may be in a best possible scenario there to recreate or recapture the magic that you lost. Maybe you just needed a step away, right? Maybe you just needed some perspective to do things a little bit differently than the way you were doing things before. Because, again, there's nothing that says Budenholzer goes somewhere else and is successful there. And then he goes somewhere else and he's successful there. Yeah. It takes every piece of an organization working together to be successful at the highest level. So I'm just wondering if, why we don't see that tried very often. We've seen it a couple times in college football with some coaches being brought back, and it almost never works out the same way as it did the first time around.
Xander Schauffele is done for the day in Charlotte with his best ever round diesel at Quail Hollow. How about that?
Wow. That's a beautiful course.
Oh, it's fantastic. Wow. It is absolutely fantastic.
How cool is it to watch golf on TV and say, I was there yesterday. And I was standing in this exact spot yesterday.
That's hole 8, I believe, going back toward the turn. I loved it so much I can go back tomorrow morning. I'm not kidding.
Oh, man, he almost put that one in the hole.
Wow.
The approach shot. Who is this?
Oh, they're showing
highlights. It's a replay. Okay. I thought we were seeing that live
yesterday. Holy
cow.
My
goodness. Yeah, that shot. We're trying to figure out who that was. They just showed the back of his head.
Yeah.
But he put the ball within about 6 feet, then it rolled and hopped over the cup, and he would have dunked it from 170 yards.
It's been some good play this week. Jordan Speed hadn't played bad. I think he was 6th last we looked, so we'll see. They're showing some of the best. That's a good shot too. They're showing some of the best shots from the first.
Cole, how do you watch this and not want to go pick up clubs?
Because I know that it will take me 800 years.
Yeah, that's the whole point.
It would frustrate the heck out of me.
That's the whole point.
Me. I'm worried, Diesel, that if I go and take lessons, and listen,
I took golf lessons. Yeah.
Backstory. A friend of mine who's a really good golfer, I talked to him recently about taking lessons. I'm thinking about it, but I'm not pulling the trigger on it.
Yeah.
I'm worried that I'll get frustrated, man, and it'll ruin it for me.
Hey, golf and sex, 2 things you don't have to be good at to enjoy.
But golf's so hard, man.
Yeah.
Golf is so hard. Also programming, well, not a programming note, but a quick note on this program. South Carolina was supposed to start an hour ago. They're in a rain delay. So those guys have not started yet.
A programming note for you. Tomorrow, we're going to be on location live in Spartanburg at Morgan Square for the Spartanburg Baseball Club name reveal. We tried to get the name out of the GM on Wednesday. Couldn't do it. He wouldn't tell us. I thought he dropped us some hints. And then when I pointed out that I thought he dropped us some hints, he went the other direction. He's like, yeah, no, that wasn't a hint.
I can't wait, man. Hey, come hang out with Diesel and I. Other stations from Odyssey Greenville will be there as well. We want to see you downtown Spartanburg tomorrow. Let's have some good fun. Tolos,
come out and see us. It'll be a good time. Diesel, we were supposed to get to this yesterday.
We both both have to at least get a hat for the new club, right?
Sure, I will.
I'm not walking out of there without a hat for the new club.
No, I'll get a hat.
I don't have a drive hat, but I'll have a Spartanburg baseball club hat.
Spartanburg what?
Baseball club.
Baseball who?
Club.
Who? I can't wait. I'm excited. I want to know what it is. I want to know. I'm ready to know. Diesel.
I should have asked him, the GM, do you have any merch in your trunk right now?
Or while I was interviewing him, you could have ran out and broke into his car.
It's a good idea. It's a good idea. You'd have been doing the show by yourself yesterday.
And today.
And for the unforeseen future.
Coming up next, Diesel, we're going to get to a topic that I had slated for yesterday. I just didn't have time to get to it. These two guys.
Texter, this is wrong. We won't get to this text. That's wrong.
These two guys, Diesel, are goats in their respective sports. Nick Saban and Tom Brady. But I asked the question in the very next segment, who will have the bigger impact on sports broadcasting with both of them going to the booth? We'll talk about it next. He's Diesel, I'm Cole Bryson, and this is The Fan Upstate. many ways for you to get in touch with Wire to Wire. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson. This is the newest show in the Upstate Afternoon Drive, 3 to 7, all sports, right here on your radio dial. Glad to be with you. Taking you home until 7 o'clock tonight. Get into the honor us. Speaking of betting, Diesel, put 2 bets in this afternoon on college baseball. 0 for 1. Utah beat Arizona at Arizona. And Kentucky was losing to Florida last I checked. So your boy might be 0 and 2 on his college
Well, you're
baseball.
here making money, and then you're also at the same time losing money.
Pretty bad.
It's incredible.
Is that math?
It's at a
Is that
net
good
zero.
math?
It's at a net zero for the day.
I
Way
wanted
to go,
to
Cole. Nice job. Keep it up.
I wanted to ask the question, Diesel, because I'm very fascinated by Tom Brady's new role with Fox Sports, and I'm very fascinated by Nick Saban's new role at College Game Day. I was going to get to this yesterday, just didn't have time, so I wanted to push it off until today. You know, Nick Saban, we can all agree that he's one of the best, if not the best, coaches to ever coach college football, and we all know that Tom Brady's the GOAT in NFL, right? However, if we look at the two, Diesel, and say, okay, Nick Saban's entering his booth, Tom Brady's entering his booth. I ask you the question, and I asked the Tolos the same question I asked before we went to break. 71307, start your text with the word fan, and we will see what you have to say. Diesel, who do you think will have the bigger impact on sports broadcasting, Nick Saban or Tom Brady?
Oh, I don't think that's even a question.
What?
The answer is clearly Nick Saban. Nick Saban is an interesting, fiery, funny guy. Tom Brady is going to flame out of the booth in a matter of a year and a half.
Diesel, you really are you
I'm calling it.
Oh.
Tom Brady is dull AF. He is dull.
Oh,
I mean, you saw he wasn't a good sport for his roast. He's too quiet. He's too measured.
You think so? You really believe that?
introspective. Yeah, I really believe that. I think he's going to be awful in the booth. The only reason Tom Brady is getting a job in the booth is because his name is Tom Brady. If it wasn't for a name, he wouldn't be in the booth at all.
But you don't think his insight in the X's and O's, you don't think all that will be enough to outweigh his personality that's a little bit dry?
No, I think he's going to be awful. He's going to suck.
I did not expect you to go that way. I did not expect that.
Booth.
I really did not expect you to say that. I do not agree. Diesel, I think Tom Brady's going to be fantastic. I think he's going to do, you know how Tony Romo, when he started, was very good with the X's and O's and being able to look and see what the defense was lining up in and tell us what was coming from the offense because of their formation. I think Brady's going to be better than that.
I think he's going to be a one-trick pony of analysis. He won't have the ability to have any personality in the booth.
You don't think he has the personality?
No.
He just hasn't shown it. Maybe he hasn't shown it yet, Diesel.
Well,
Maybe
he
he
had
hasn't.
the opportunity the other night.
I cannot believe you are dishing on my man, Tom Brady, like this. All right, so the flip side. Saban, you think will be the opposite? Flamboyant to say, or a little less?
Not flamboyant, but Nick has got 40 years of insight that he's going to be able to bring, you know, from having coached multiple teams, from having been the most powerful voice in the sport. I mean, Nick Saban press conferences are fantastic. If we can get him to show that level of personality, I mean, think about like when Nick was really mad. Like if we can get him to harness that personality and bring it to whatever the topic is,
yeah,
I think he's going to be great.
You know what I was thinking about though? And Texter, by the way, from the 587 says, why would Fox want Brady when they had Greg Olson? Well, Greg Olson, by the way, Texter, I'll say this, good point. That's right. It's a good point, Texter, because you're right. Greg Olson's fantastic. Like really, really good. So you're right, Texter. Olson may be better, but to Diesel's point, he doesn't have the big name. What about this? And I'll get to the other text in a second because we have several coming in. Diesel, do you think that if the roles were reversed, Brady would be better? What I mean is Saban's going to be on a pregame type show. Brady will be giving his analysis on the action as it's going. How would it be if Brady was on the pregame and Nick Saban was actually in the booth giving his analysis? I would love to hear Saban in the actual booth.
I think Saban is versatile enough that he could do both.
You think so?
I think Tom on a show where his entire job is to show personality, I think he would sink. And I am not a Tom Brady hater.
Yeah.
Tom Brady is the GOAT quarterback in football. He is. He's phenomenal on the field.
Sure.
I don't see it. I could be wrong, and I hope I am wrong because I mean he's a huge name, and I hope he shows a level of personality that we haven't seen from him before.
Texter says, I actually disagree. I think both Tom and Nick come out of their sports nutshells and become quite interesting personalities. Another texter says, I never thought Romo would be good in the booth, and he surprised us all. I think Brady and Saban's intelligence will be on full display.
I do have to at least say this, Cole. I mean, do we really think that Fox would – I mean, he's going to go through training, right? He's certainly going to go through training to be in the booth. But if it wasn't a fit, if like they just knew, like this guy doesn't have it. This guy, he doesn't have it with a headset.
That's a great
on.
question.
Do you think that they would pull the plug and say Tom is going to go a different direction? Or do you think they would give him, still give him his year or two or whatever the contract may be to see if something develops?
I think they would give him
or they would
time.
let him stink for a while just because he's Tom Brady.
That's a great question. I think they'd give him time. The question is, though, would he at some point realize, hey, I'm not good at this. I need to pull off. Here's the problem. It's a $375 million contract with Fox for 10 years.
I will say this. Tom is relentless in his pursuit of being great at things. So even if he's not great out of the gate, I do believe that Tom Brady will do what it takes to try to be as good as he possibly can be.
So as a retired Hall of Fame, 7-time winning Super Bowl quarterback, Diesel, retired, I don't know if he'll be able to make as much money. He's now going to be making $3.1 million a month as a TV analyst.
Hey, Big Tom, let me hold $1.
Every week that paycheck, I can't even. This is stupid. This $375 million to talk on television. So 375. These numbers are too big for me. I'm trying to do the math here.
Your phone even type in that many numbers?
It will. So that's 37. If I said it wrong, I apologize. That's 37 million a year. Okay, that would be 3.1 million a month. I said that right. And then per week, his weekly paycheck, $789,000 a week.
Good God.
Diesel, that's unbelievable. $789,000 a week.
How many months? How many years would we have to work
here
to reach $700?
Oh, at this job,
$89,000.
A trillion years.
Check divided by.
Don't do it. Don't do it. It's gonna make me depressed. Don't do it, Diesel. While he's doing. Don't do it. Oh man.
Oh man.
Let me guess. Are we guessing years?
Yeah, years.
840.
Come on. You're
Too
not
many?
that bad at math.
Okay.
You're not that
give
bad
me
at math.
Give me the answer.
19 and a half years. We got to work 19 and a half years to make what Tom Brady makes in a week.
That's unbelievable. That's unbelievable. Texter says, what's more valuable, 40 years of coaching insight versus 20 years of quarterback insight? I say they're both equal. That's a good question. It really is. Texter says, Greg Olson got his chops as an announcer for the XFL in 2020 as an active player. Brady should be practicing in the UFL, says Trey. I like that.
Well, here's a little bit of insight here for you guys. So, in radio, you bounce around from station to station. Some people bounce around from market to market. You seek out other opportunities, right? You're always trying to move up in this business.
Sure.
I knew a guy who worked, and he was on the air, and he was the program director for a national satellite rock radio station. You probably can guess which one it is if you have satellite radio. I had spoken to him, about every 6 months for 2 or 3 years. And I sent him my stuff, and he listens to it, and he goes, man, this is really good. This is really good. I would love to bring you on our station. But you're not a star with, 1.5 million Twitter followers right now.
Sure.
He goes, we can teach this comedian. It was Jim Norton, comedian. He goes, we can teach this is company's policy, okay? The company's philosophy is we can teach Jim Norton how to host a good radio show. We can't teach you how to have 1.5 million Twitter followers. Like, the guy's already a star. And they look at it like, well, if we're bringing him in, we're going to get 1.5 million potential new subscribers.
Sure.
And he's like, as talented as you are as a jock and as a host, you be coming in with 7,000-8,000 Twitter followers.
Yeah.
And that's not going to do us any good. We need as many followers as we could possibly get coming into the fold with our next hire. So he goes, truth is, dude, he goes, I would not be hired by this company right now. And he'd been there for 15 years. He goes, I'm not a star in the way that these national level comedians who have, who have multiple millions of Twitter followers are. And that's the same way you could look at Greg Olsen. Greg Olsen, as a Panthers fan, you say that guy's a star. But Greg Olsen to the NFL is not necessarily a star.
True. It's sad, but true.
As good as he is.
He is. He's fantastic.
Sorry, Greg, you're really good, but you're not Tom Brady.
Yeah.
And that's the way they look at it.
You're not the name. I mean, it's as simple as a name. It really is. And, Texter says, yeah, social media is the game these days. Personality sells. It is. And that's what it is. So, listen, I'm not a Panthers fan by any stretch of the imagination, but I love Greg Olsen as a color commentator.
I think Greg Olsen, he'd be fantastic working for the Carolina Panthers. And hey, there's probably guys from every single team who could be that guy for their team.
Sure. He could be. I'd like to hear him with Anish Roth. How about that? That'd be great, wouldn't it? Greg and Anish, can you imagine? It'd be a significant pay cut, I'm sure, from what he's doing now. But, man, it'd be great for Anish and for Panthers radio. But, hey, it's a good conversation. A lot of feedback. We appreciate your feedback on this segment. Saban, Brady in the booth. We'll come back to it, I'm sure, at some point. But you got some audio, Diesel, from a big baby. Coming up next, what is it?
We do. We'll get to that, and we'll get to this audio is going to blow you away. A former NBA player arrested, and the audio that was recorded as he found out that he was going to jail for a long, long time is going to blow you away. That's coming up next here on Wire to Wire. Cole, little college football realignment news. No, it's not a big conference. It's a little one. Conference USA has officially added Missouri State to the mix. So that makes, I think, only two FBS teams in the state of Missouri. So it's getting a little crowded over there in Missouri. Cole, we teased this news, man. This blows me away. If you guys hadn't heard, former NBA star Glenn Big Baby Davis was sentenced to 3.5 years in prison for defrauding a healthcare benefits plan. He was convicted for his involvement in a scheme to defraud the NBA's healthcare plan. He is one of 20 players indicted for filing false reimbursement claims for medical procedures that were never actually performed.
You can't do that?
No, you can't do that. The players netted over $5 million in illicit profits. Big Baby Davis himself submitted $132,000 worth of claims, including $27,000 in dental work in Beverly Hills. The problem is that cell phone data proves that he was in Las Vegas at the time.
Ooh.
So no,
big no-no.
He was not getting that procedure done. What blows me away, though, Cole, is the audio. Big Baby Davis's reaction when he found out that he was going to jail for 3.5 years.
That's crazy. I'm gonna be swole though. I swear to God, I'm about to get in so much shape. Oh God, that's the only way you can stop me from eating hamburgers is put me in jail. That's what God said. I'm gonna stop you eating hamburgers. Put you in jail. You don't want to stop eating hamburgers and Cheetos? You're going to jail. So now, I'm gonna come to rock.
You're gonna be eating a lot more than hamburgers in jail, my friend. Have you ever heard of a prison loaf? You're gonna be getting prison loaf.
Gross, Diesel.
Dude's going to jail for 3.5 years, and he's excited that he's gonna get in better shape.
It's like he doesn't even care.
What is wrong?
You know
with
what it's like? It's like he believes that ain't happening. You know, that ain't happening. I can promise you I ain't going to jail.
So here's another crazy story, Cole. This is it's incredible that two not too dissimilar stories happen in a very close amount of time. Former NFL defensive back Buster Skrine is on the run and being sought by Canadian police for allegedly defrauding banks. Buster's ankle monitor went offline and he went on the run. He was arrested in August of 2023 for defrauding multiple Canadian banks for $100,000. Police say he would identify himself as a retired NFL player, open accounts with fraudulent checks, and earn a fraction of the money before the checks cleared.
Buster.
Not really sure what that means to earn a fraction of the checks before they clear, but it kind of sounds to me, Cole, like the scheme in Office Space.
Yeah.
Like we're going to make all these tiny transactions and take a little bit of money off of each one. That one blows me away, man. Like former athletes, just because you're an athlete, don't make you smart.
Oh, no kidding. Hey, real quick programming note, if you're still listening, Diesel and I are going to be downtown Spartanburg tomorrow night. Come hang out with us. Tolo, let's go.